Hey, this is Kevin Kelly, and you are listening to the Stardom Cast.
This is Jesse from Club Venus from Stardom, and you're watching Stardom Cast.
Hello guys and welcome to the Stardom Cast, your weekly audio source of all things World Wonder Ring Stardom. I'm your host, Rob Goodwin, and I'm joined by the myth, the man, the legend, Mr. Matt Turner. Matt Turner, how are you, good sir?
Rob Goodwin, I am fantastic. I am better than I deserve to be. I'm doing terrific. I hope you are doing great. I hope everybody listening is doing terrific. I hope you're all having a great day, as I'm super excited to talk about these three fantastic shows that we have coming up here on the Stardom Cast, as well as we're finally giving a little bit of time to breathe towards a pay-per-view, as we have three championship matches ready to go for the end of the month. But yeah, my man, all things is well. Wrestling seems to be doing fantastic. Everything in the Turner household is 10 out of 10 stars. How's everything with you, my friend?
Yes, not too bad at all. It's funny you should say that we are giving things to breathe before a pay-per-view. I'm afraid you're incorrect, Matt, because the show in Nagoya on the 8th is listed as being a pay-per-view, so no such luck. However, I know exactly what you mean. Obviously, Stardom, the conversion, which is stylized in all capitals, which makes it does make it feel like it's shouting at you. On June 22nd is the official pay-per-view. I imagine this one in Nagoya will just be an additional price, which, you know, I'm on record as not particularly liking, but there we are. But yes, everything else is going tremendously well. The painting is done in 2 rooms. The cats have only weed in 3 rooms. So I feel like we're getting there, my friend. We're getting there. But we've got a lot to talk about today. As you alluded to, we have got all sorts of news coming out of both Stardom and Marigold. We've got 3 shows to talk about. Stardom have announced the full cards for 4 of the next shows, as well as matches made up for the conversion pay-per-view and New Blood 13 as well. So a heck of a lot to talk about. But Matt, before we go anywhere, I feel like we need to have a serious conversation about your dedication to the podcast. Now, I didn't want to say anything, but you are swanning off to Dallas for a week, leaving little old me to do the podcast. And quite honestly, I am a little bit disappointed. And I do feel like you aren't quite showing the levels of commitment to the podcast. So on your flight down, I've got no idea how long the flight from Pennsylvania to Dallas, Texas is, but I want you to be thinking about what you can do to be better. Because honestly, I'm quite disappointed.
Little does he know, folks. And again, this is a little programming note for next week. Yes, on Monday, which I believe is the 10th, I'm flying to Dallas, Texas. Von Air country, folks. Von Air country for work purposes. If this was a vacation purpose, I'm sure that I would be able to hide off in a room for an hour and do a podcast. So this is for work purposes. So unfortunately, I won't be able to do either the Marigold Standard or the Stardom Cast next week. However, I do have a little recorder app on my phone. So what I'm going to do is, what I'm going to plan to do, hopefully this does work out, is that when I watch the shows that are available this weekend, I will just give kind of like my news and notes and thoughts and star ratings in the recorder and then send them off to Rob. And then Rob will edit it in on however he sees fit for the 2 shows, the Marigold Standard and the Stardom Cast podcast, because I do pride myself on my hard work, and I absolutely am completely dedicated and love this show for many reasons. Obviously, Mr. Goodwin, you were one of them. And then our fantastic listeners, the friends and family of the Stardom Cast are another one. So I've never missed a weekly episode before, and I don't plan on it now. I don't plan on letting work, the job that pays my bills, that puts a roof over my head, that feeds my family. I'm going to not let that get in the way of talking about my favorite subject, and that is professional wrestling, especially Stardom and Marigold. So yes, folks, a programming note. Next week, I will be away for work, so I'm going to try to watch as much Stardom and Marigold as I can, record it on my recorder on my phone, and then send it off to Rob in the email. So this way you will be able to hear my voice in one way or another for next week's shows. Now, I know a lot of people are probably saying, Matt, you're going to Dallas, Texas, home of the Von Erichs. I know what you're thinking. And yes, I plan. I don't know what my night schedule is going to look like after we get done with training, but I'm planning on taking an Uber to go to the hallowed grounds of where the world famous Dallas Sportatorium used to stand on. Now, I know the Dallas Sportatorium, they tore down some 20 years ago, but for me being a huge wrestling fan of all eras, even in, the 60s, 70s before I was born, obviously 80s, 90s, and current wrestling, I'm a huge, huge fan of the Von Erichs, and the Sportatorium is one of the most legendary venues in the history of pro wrestling. And I know that they tore it down some 20 years ago, so I'm going to try to see if I can take an Uber or have somebody just drive me so I could walk on the hallowed grounds of the Sportatorium. So fingers crossed, and keep your eyes and ears posted for that.
Again, it's not going to be the same, but I suppose for your first absence in 3 years that I'll just have to let it slide. What's more alarming?
I'm still not going to be absent. You're going to hear my voice. I'm going to send some stuff.
It's not going to be live, Matt. It's not going to be the same. If you had a 6-woman tag and you had Mayu video call in at the end, it's not the same, is it? God.
Still better than 90% of the wrestlers out there.
Yes, absolutely. Well, 100%, but that's beside the point. But yes, what's perhaps more alarming is the fact that this is the first time in the almost 4-year history of the podcast that I will be doing it solo. So please be patient. Please be nice. Because I don't think I'm going to be able to talk for 2 hours straight. Certainly not for 2 nights with both the Marigold experience, Marigold experience standard, as we keep calling it.
He did it.
Or the Stardom cast, so you will have to bear with me. But Matt promises me that he will use Dallas to rejuvenate and come back even more positive, if possible, than ever. But speaking of dedication, and obviously I jest, but Matt, a lot of good buzz coming off your recent What If with Alice in Danger, which dropped today. But tell everybody else what is coming up on the Stardom Cast Extra this week, my friend.
Alternate commentary. Myself and Rob Goodwin went back to the 2019 final night of the 5-Star Grand Prix and the finals as Hana Kimura took on Konami, 2 members of Tokyo Cyber Squad in the finals of the 5-Star Grand Prix. That was our alternate commentary. Our alternate commentary next week will be Yoko Bito challenging one Io Shirai for the World of Stardom Championship. We also, Rob, I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, brother. Our roundtable discussion of Marigold and WWE, is that going to be on the feed this week?
It is indeed. In fact, it is scheduled currently, I believe, to come out on Saturday, but I will just double check whilst you are talking. Just let me double check. This is where Rob's internet really plays havoc with my...
Well, I'll fill in while he's checking that. So, yeah, probably in the next handful of days this weekend, Rob and I have done a what if, is basically what if myself and Rob were to book the Marigold Summer Destiny show. So that would be dropping this weekend. Also dropping this weekend, Tag Team Breakdown. It's back once again for all tiers of the Patreon. I'm joined once again as Andy Header as we break down the tag match from earlier this year as Aphrodite, Saya Kamatani, and Tommy Hayashishita take on the makeshift tag team of May Sarah and Azumi. And yes, you just made mention as we're recording this on Wednesday, we just dropped the What If with Alice in Danger. That was what if myself and Alice in Danger were to book Julia in NXT/WWE. And yeah, it's only been out a handful of hours, And I've gotten a lot of private messages, not only on the Patreon page, but also my social media pages as well, saying how much they absolutely love doing that episode. And about 24 hours after we recorded, I got a lovely message from Allison saying how much she absolutely loved my idea to do with Julia down in WWE. And I was like, I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag here, but I was like, hey, Allison, you have friends down there that work there, like your brother. Put the plug in their ear and maybe sell my idea down there. So lovely. We can literally talk to Allison about anything. She's just so fantastic and just a great joy to talk to about anything, whether it's family or sports. But obviously, wrestling is the name on the marquee, and she is an absolute genius when it comes to professional wrestling. So yeah, that was a really, really good one. But yeah, that's all the stuff that we have on the Patreon and what's going to be coming up in the next handful of days. Mr. Goodwin, was that roundtable discussion with me and you coming out this weekend, my friend?
It is coming out Saturday, the 8th of June, and it'll be coming out at 5 a.m. British Standard Time. It's all scheduled, it's all ready to go. So look out for that in your feed, because despite it being a little bit spontaneous, a little bit impromptu, it was good fun to try and almost go head-to-head in fantasy booking that Marigold WWE Sumo Hall card. And I think we did pretty well, despite the fact that we ended up with some of the same matches somehow. I mean, whatever the odds and the probability are of that. But I would love to know, as soon as it airs or as soon as it drops in your Patreon feed, I'd love to know, what would your cards be? And also, who do you think won in terms of whose card was better? And then you can explain in the comments why it was Matt's. But yeah, it was a fun episode to do, my friend, and hopefully we will have that long-awaited Utami Stardom career retrospective up in the very near future. We have a tentative recording date. Fingers crossed it works for all parties.
Yeah. So a lot of good stuff on the Patreon that's already on there. That'll be on there by the time this drops, and then coming in within the next week. I'm trying to get as much stuff done before I leave to Dallas. I'm trying to get my my What If with Scotty Wrestling done this weekend as well before I leave. And that is what if Momo Watanabe defeated Micah at All-Star Grand Queendom and won the World of Stardom Championship, which kind of just going back and forth with dates with that. And then, yes, our roundtable discussion, as we locked it in for the 6th time in a matter of about 8 weeks, is myself, Rob, and of course, friend of the show and all around just fantastic human being, Karen Peterson, are going to be looking back at Utami Hayashista's her legendary Stardom career, and that'll drop sometime at the end of this month. So yeah, lots of really, really awesome stuff, not only on the free feed for the Marigold Standard Experience and the Stardom cast, but as well as the Patreon. Lots of, as always, we loaded up the month for the phenomenal Patreon listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots and lots to look forward to. Let's talk about some news then. And unfortunately, this seems to be becoming a little bit of a regularity at the moment on the Stardom cast. We're going to start with an injury, as the We Are Stardom Twitter account has put out that Waka Tsukiyama is scheduled for medical treatment and will be out of action with a return date penciled in for June 29th. So as we record this on the 5th, it's 24 days away. And then join us in wishing her a speedy recovery. Obviously, we wish nothing but the best for Waka, who, for all intents and purposes, sounds like an absolutely lovely, lovely person. Seems to have gotten into a stride again with the EXV stuff. Seems to have found a place for herself in that. Seems to have come back from her previous injury really well. Obviously, we don't know if this is sort of a brand new injury, a fresh injury, or whether it is something as a result of, I believe it was the hernia she had before, but a recovery time of 24 days, fingers crossed it's not too serious. But Matt, obviously wishing nothing but the best for Waka.
Yeah, it might just be something just from a previous injury. That's what it seems to be. I'm not a doctor, nor do I play one on TV, my friend. But yeah, that's what it seems. And just considering the fact that, and we're going to get into it when we get into the Korakuen show, in my opinion, the best performance Waka's ever had. I mean, she really took a licking and really gave it back to Sherry and Konami. And it was one of the most underrated matches I've ever seen in professional wrestling. Just an absolute, the definition of a hidden gem. So it's like, okay, maybe we're finally going to get behind the Waka train and maybe give a little bit of a push to her. I'm really a big fan of her team with Hanako, especially, again, the match with Sherry and Konami from this past weekend. And then they had a phenomenal shot at the New Blood Tag Team Championships a few months ago against Winggori. So it really seemed like Waka was building at least a little bit of momentum as far as, getting the crowd behind her, only to go down with an injury. But hopefully she rests, recovers, and maybe the absence will make the heart grow fonder when Waka comes back. So, yeah, speedy recovery to Waka. Please do not come back anytime earlier than you need to, because we don't want to see you going down with an injury. But we do hope to see you back in the ring and kicking ass in the Stardom ring as soon as you're healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. Now that Scotty Wrestling has mentioned the fact that this pay-per-view, the conversion, is in capital letters, I do feel like I'm going to have to shout it every time. So just bear with me. Stardom, the conversion, now has 3 matches made official for it over the last couple of days. 3 title matches as well. The Goddess of Stardom belts will be on the line. All Stars Affair, Fukuoka Double Crazy, the champions, taking on Winggori, Hanan, and Saya Iida. Matt, you predicted that correctly. As you did the Wonder of Stardom Championship, I'll give you a chance to pat yourself on the back very shortly for this, but Saori Anou will be defending the Wonder of Stardom Championship against Mika Iwata, and then in your, what I presume will be your main event. And this just comes as a little bit of a surprise, which we will be talking about, obviously, in a little bit more detail when we're talking about the Korakuen show. But the World of Stardom Championship will also be on the line. Micah defending her belt against her fellow EXV member, Xena. Some really good matches there, Matt. Very much looking forward to that Goddesses match. I'm happy for Xena, who, let's be perfectly honest, in this run, I feel has completely deserved a singles title spotlight. We talked not long ago with sort of a little bit of a grievance almost with Flashing Champions, the fact that there was no red belt defense, and how, something like this, something like a, no disrespect to Xena at all, but a filler defense is perfect for this sort of pay-per-view. And I think this perhaps even should have been on the Flashing Champions card. That being what it is, 3 solid title matches. I'm looking forward to what else Stardom managed to put onto the conversion card.
I love it how you step away from the microphone, so this way it's, and I can't see you because we're not, this isn't a video podcast. I'm assuming that you're just taking the microphone like The Rock and looking up at the ceiling in your new podcast room, which, by the way, folks, I saw the other day when we did alternate commentary. It looks fantastic. Supposedly there's a light up poster of Mean Robin there, so I'm super pumped for it. So that's only gonna make you better, my man, because I'm gonna be right. Even though I can't record with you next week, buddy, I will be there with you, not only in spirit but in cartoon form. So there you go. I'll be with you in one way or another. But anywho, yeah, this show looks really, really good. Obviously, I'm super excited for FWC versus Winggori. I mean, Winggori has been low key one of the best tag teams in all of wrestling with their New Blood Championship run. And they haven't had too many defenses previously with the belts. I think they haven't had a defense, since March. But obviously, FWC's firing on all cylinders. Hanan's on a roll. Saya Iida, you can put her up there with Xena and Momo Kogo as far as the most improved wrestlers in all of wrestling for 2024. And now she has a new gimmick where she just throws her jacket as high up to the ceiling as possible to see if it's going to stay. And I'm all for that. Just another reason why we love Saya Iida. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to that match. And don't give me full credit on Miko Iwata. I did make mention when we reviewed the Hana Kimura show last week that it looked like they were building up to her and Shuri. We are getting her in a Stardom ring, but it's Saori Anou for the Wonder of Stardom Championship. I'm hoping that somewhere this leads to a match with her and Shuri. For her and Saori Anou would be great. Yes, I'm super pumped for it. And I think as soon as the pictures came out from the show in Sendai, I texted you right away. I was like, wow, this is happening. They are bringing her in. Obviously, it's probably going to be a one-off, but if they can get 1 or 2 more matches out of this, again, with her and Shuri, or Shuri and Konami from these shows we're going to review, all of a sudden they became one of my new favorite tag teams because they fit my mold of what I love in wrestling, is 2 fantastic wrestlers that kick ass and have great submissions. But I would love to see if we're going to get a little bit of Miko Iwata in Stardom a little bit. Obviously, you have this championship match with Saori Anou, which is going to be great. And then you're going to, hopefully we get a one-on-one match with Shuri, and then maybe a Red Energy tag match versus Shuri and Konami. That would be right up my alley. Now I'm going to circle back to Saori Anou and this Wonder of Stardom Championship defense, because there's 2 points I want to make, and I kind of want to get your opinions on what I'm going to say.
Okay.
But let's go to the red belt. Let's go to the red belt. We got Micah and we have Xena. And you're kind of, when this was, I didn't get a chance to watch this Korakuen show live. I was just too busy. But when I saw that this is what they were doing, I was like, okay, like you could have, again, Shuri, Tam, we're waiting for that. It's like Xena. Okay, again, it's going to be again, Xena's fantastic. In my opinion, the most improved wrestler in all of wrestling in 2024. Getting a shot against Micah kind of was like still a little bit of a head scratcher. But then when I watched of course, I was reserved it until I actually watched the match and the promo that happened. I hate it when people report on anything, whether it's pro wrestling or sports, and they don't see the actual thing. They just like, oh, this is what I saw, this is what I heard, I don't like it. Well, did you see it play out? Well, no. But why are you commenting on it? You don't have 2 legs to stand on. So I went back and watched it, and the whole psychology behind it was really simple. Micah has done interviews where she's saying, I'm not defending the belt at Flashing Champions because nobody stepped up. Nobody will challenge me. And Micah's like, Xena, you're the only one that has stepped up and challenged me. Of course I'll accept your challenge. Plus, she's right there in the same corner with her in EXV and as part of the Trios champs. So I was like, oh, that does make sense. And it was really, really simple. Sometimes, Rob, we overanalyze everything. Remember the acronym. KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. And that was real simple. Xena, you're the only one that challenged me. You got it. And you know it's going to be a great match. It's going to be a hard-hitting match. And we'll get to when we review the match. They did a great job highlighting her and make her the MVP of the main event of Korakuen Hall to bump her up to make her credible against Micah. So kudos on them. And again, it's something different and something new. They're going to test out somebody that's never been in the main of a big main event of a pay-per-view before against a big championship for a big championship. So it's going to be interesting to see, 1, how the match is, and 2, how many tickets it's going to draw in. So it's nice to see this new brass of Stardom giving opportunities to main events, the people that have never main evented these big shows before, like an Ami Sori on the last big pay-per-view, and now to Xena. So something really, really incredible there. So yeah, my friend, I'm really interested in those 3 matches. And again, I'm going to back up here a little bit. I want to talk about this Wonder of Stardom Championship. Now, Mr. Goat, I'm going to make 2 points. I'm going to make my first point. I'm going to tag you in because you're the expert here. And I want to kind of just see if I'm on the right track. In my opinion, the 13-year history of this Wonder of Stardom Championship, there's been 5 phenomenal next level champions. You take Io's 2 runs, Kairi, Arisa Hoshinki, Momo Watanabe, and of course Saya Kamatani. And that's no disrespect to Tam, Julia. I thought they were both great champions, but I'm talking absolute next level must-see championships. Would I be kind of in the right there, my friend?
Obviously, I haven't seen enough of Yuzuki Aikawa's championship run.
A lot of it that you can't see. Yeah, a lot of it it's unable to see.
Well, via Stardom World anyway. Not that I'm condoning any sort of illegal watching of Stardom matches that you can't get on Stardom World at all. But I think you're right. I think Saori Anou has all the tools to be in that category, certainly. She's fantastic on offense. She's got a star-making aura, which we talked about during our Flashing Champions review. You know, she carries herself like a champion. She's got those intangibles that make you want to sort of make her seem like a champion, make her feel like a champion. And then she sells magnificently in my mind. And, you know, I've said this before on the podcast. There's only really Mayu that sells, in my opinion, better than Saori Anou does. She, even in matches which we know she's going to win. So, for example, you know, don't disrespect the Amisori match, which I thought was a fantastic match. We all knew Amisori was going to win, but we all knew, that Saori Anou was going to win. But she made Amisori look fantastic. And that is, for me, part of being a fantastic champion, is how you get over your opponent. And I think, you know, Mikuru Iwata versus Saori Anou is, you know, a little bit of a dream match, really, for Stardom fans. I know that we've seen it in other promotions like Sendai Girls, and I know we've seen it, obviously. We saw a little bit of it in the Hana Kimura Memorial Show. But this, for me, is a really, really, really good test of Saori Anou. And personally, I think this could be match of the night, personally.
Yeah, and again, my point is those five, in my opinion, are the next level. You know, the names I just mentioned: Kairi, Io, Arisa, Momo, and Saya Kamatani. To me, those are the top tier of Wonder of Stardom champions. Again, that's my opinion. With Soriano, my next opinion, what I'm trying to get to, which you must have been reading my mind because you already got in there. Soriano has the possibility to be in the category with those five fantastic wrestlers with the Wonder of Stardom championship. Between what she's done and what they already have on the plate for her, she had the great match with Mariah, Dream Queen, where she won the belt. A fantastic must-see match with Starlight Kid at the anniversary show. In my opinion, and I think you agree with me, partner, Hanen's best match of all time.
Absolutely.
At All-Star Grand Queen. And then she goes and has, in my opinion, I think you'll agree with me, Ami Sohrei's best match she's ever had at Flashing Champions. Now you're throwing in Miko Iwata. They tease the match with Xena. And especially if Xena gives Micah a run for her money, which you know she's going to, and you know Micah is going to do everything she can to make Xena look credible. So even if you have Xena going after the Wonder Belt after going after the Red Belt, that's only going to build Xena up. We've teased Xena, we've teased Suzuki, and we know we're getting a Natsupoi match out of there. So if you throw everything that she's already done with this Mika Iwata match coming up here at the end of the month, and then we're going to add a Xena match on there, we're going to add a Natsupoi match on there and a Hazuki match on there. This very, very well can put Soriano in the category with those other wrestlers that I just mentioned as far as the best runs with the Wonder of Stardom Championship.
Absolutely. And what you've got to think is initially Stardom wanted the red and white belts to be on a similar sort of standing, less a primary and a secondary championship, and more, you would maybe have them both on a level, so to speak. I think recently that has gone out of the window. You had Mayu, Utami, and Syuri, where it was very evident that the red belt was the top championship. And I think with Saori Anou, there's again a possibility of that real elevation of the championship again. I think the sort of Tam Mirai sort of program, I think, through no fault of either woman, I think it fell a little bit flat. And I think Saori Anou was sort of injecting that little bit of something. What's the word I'm looking for? Something unmentionable, something new, yes. Something different to the championship, which is something that it has needed. And I think it does help as well. You look at the caliber of opponent that she's had and the caliber of opponent she's got lined up. You mentioned that, look at them. At one point, we had a queue of about 15 people for Saori Anou's championship, and that was without Mika Iwata. So, yeah, I think she retains against Mika Iwata in a fantastic match, maybe even going to the old TLD, because I believe Mika Iwata is the Sendai Girls champion. I believe. So obviously Sendai Girls aren't going to want her pinned clean necessarily, so that could go to a TLD, which I wouldn't be against. And then obviously, Natsupoi at the moment is incredible, one of the top babyfaces in the company. You've got Hazuki, who is perhaps, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, but it's perhaps got negative connotations when it comes to a belt. She's the new Jungle Kiona, in which, she can have fantastic matches whenever she's given the opportunity, but whether she will ever get, whether she'll ever get over the top is a different matter entirely. We'll talk a little bit more about this card because we're going to be talking about, obviously, the shows. But just before we do that, Marigold has also announced their full card for the next Korakuen Hall show, which is going to be on June the 11th, which is Tuesday as we record. So we'll be looking at that a week on Monday. The card is as follows. Mirai versus Komomo Minami, a brand new rookie that's coming up through the Marigold Dojo. She was initially supposed to debut against Hazuki at New Blood Premium, but that never materialized, and then she left. She will be making her debut against Mirai, so that's very, very exciting. Naoya Ishikawa will make her return after missing the last two shows. She'll be taking on Nagisa Nozaki in singles action. Misa Matsui and Mei Sakurai will be taking on Natsumi Shozuki and Chiaki. We've then got a 6-woman tag, which I believe is the first 6-woman tag of the Marigold era, with Mikue Ono, Koki Amare, and Chikagoto taking on Bozilla, Zeta Steel, and Myla Grace. And then you've got 2 singles matches at the top of the card. Victoria Yuzuki versus Sari, and Utami Hayashishita versus Nanae Takahashi. Nanae Takahashi. I must remember how Sonny told me to say it. Nanae Takahashi. So I think that's a really solid card, to be perfectly honest, man. I think it lacks... I think it's always going to not necessarily follow up to Marigold Fields Forever, because that was sort of a look at this brand new thing, and it was a lot of intrigue surrounding it. However, for those that have sort of carried on watching Marigold after that initial show, I think we'll be quite happy with this card. Obviously, we aren't quite at the point where we've got championships. They will be presumably introduced between now and Summer Destiny in July, but Utami versus Nanae, very, very exciting. I love that we have got Yuzuki in such a prevalent spot on this card. At the moment, in the running order, she is in the semi-main against Sari, and I think that's perfect for her. Again, she is a real star for the future. And now Ishikawa versus Nagisa Nozaki, I am very, very excited for. After watching more of Nozaki, I'm really impressed with the way that she's been working. I've waxed lyrical on the Marigold Standard about how in love I am with Ishikawa. I think she's fantastic. And then obviously we get the intrigue of this brand new rookie, Komomo Minami. How is she going to work with Mirai? What is her style going to be like? Potentially you look at the rookies that they did the little introductions of on the Marigold English Twitter page. She is the one with the most experience. So how much experience has she got, and how will that translate into the ring? All in all, Matt, with the roster that they have available, obviously no Julia, who we'll be talking about shortly, I think this is pretty much the most solid card they could put out. And I'm sure with them having, I believe, sold out the 176 box in Osaka for one of the shows, I'm sure they'll be very, very optimistic that they're going to do another good number at Korakuen.
Yeah, now Minami, she was the rookie that was supposed to debut last year against Suzuki, right?
Now, Matt, I don't know about you, but if I was a rookie and they went, right, Rob, you've done a lot of training, you've passed your protest, well done. You're going to make your debut at the Yokohama Budokan. I'd be like, get in. Yes, I've made it. Who am I going to be fighting? Hazuki. No, do you know what? I quit. See you later. I would do the exact same thing. I would be feigning injury. I'd be feigning death. But yes, I imagine that is where you're going, is it, my friend?
Yeah, because then it's just like, now we're going to put you up against Mirai. So it's like, it's like, geez, it's almost like Rossi was just like, and I know he wasn't running Stardom, but he was kind of running Stardom, right? So it's just like, okay, yeah, all right, we're going to put you up against Suzuki. Now I'm good. And then all of a sudden she pops up in Marigold. It's like, hey, boss, I'm back. It's like, okay, great. Let's finish your training. You're good to go. We're going to put you debut on Korakuen Hall. Great. Korakuen Hall, legendary venue. Yep. You dodged out against Suzuki? Sure did, boss. You don't have a Suzuki here. Nope. But you know who we have? A Mirai.
That if she hits a lariat the same she hit against Chiaki in Korakuen Hall last time out, I'm genuinely concerned Minami's not going to get up. But I am excited. Like I said, just for pure intrigue, Mirai feels like such a huge deal in Marigold, and I'm so happy for her. I really, really am. Mikue Ono, who might well be one of my new favourite wrestlers behind Mayu. I'm excited to see her in 6-woman action against that all-foreigner stable. And then again, so happy for Yuzuki. That big highlighted match. Anytime you get in a ring with Sari, especially at the moment, as she's easily one of the top 2 or 3 workers of the year in any promotion, that is going to be such a spotlight for her. And yes, she is going to lose. Yes, she is 100% going to lose. I imagine that this will do so much for her as a worker, won't it?
We always say it's not if you lose, it's how you lose. And
Exactly.
we know that, we know she can eat the L there. No reason for her to get the win, especially for, you're building up Sari and Julia coming up here, in just about 2 months. But it's going to be a great match. Sari is going to give Yuzuki a lot. But, I'm really looking forward to this whole entire Sayaka, the Nao Ishikawa versus Nozaki match. That's going to be a really, really good one. The Mei Sakurai tag match, opposite sides of Chiaka and Shozuki. That's going to be terrific. But Miko Ano, her trying to chop down the tree of Bozilla is a psychology and something I'm really going to be looking forward to in that match. I don't know how much or if any interaction they're going to have because there's 4 other wrestlers in the match, but that one's going to be intriguing. But Rob, I have to ask you, that main event of Utami and Nanai, that's what we're assuming is the main event. How does this one go for you? Because I'll tell you right now, as soon as that match was announced, I was like, oh, this has got TLD written all over it, upside down, backwards, inside out, diagonal. This is going to be a time limit draw. Now, the fact that this is more than likely going to be the main event, do you think they're going to finish this show off with a TLD, or you think we're going to actually have a winner here?
We've seen Stardom do it when Rossi was booking. He wasn't afraid of having TLDs to end shows, to close shows, especially with title matches. We saw, I know it's not the same, but we've seen the Red Belt, Io Shirai, and Arita Nakajima back in 2013. That ended in a time limit draw. We've seen the Goddess of Stardom titles, main event shows, and they've gone to time limit draws. So it's not out of the realms of possibility. One thing I think doesn't happen, and I say this with a certain sense of trepidation, is that Nanae doesn't win. Because, Utami Hayashishita, again, one of the best workers, irrespective of gender in the world. You are looking to put your new company on the map. And we talked a little bit on the Marigold Standard about how, yes, Utami's lost 2 out of 3 matches, but they were in tags. You're looking to get over the rest of your roster. One person you do not need to get over anymore is Nanae Takahashi. So, Utami, if you are going to have a decisive victor, it has to be Utami. Has to be. Because you're looking to build your company around her. Yes, you've got Julia, but we don't know for how much longer. Yes, you've got Mirai, but is she ready for the top spot? Yes, you've got Victoria Yuzuki, but she is a golden prospect almost. So I think a good way of sort of establishing Utami as your top babyface, with the exception of perhaps Julia at the moment, is to have her beat Nanae Takahashi. And I think she does it on this show because... Yeah, I'm going to put all my cards on the table. I think she does it. I think she wins, and I think she wins clean.
There you go, folks.
Let's move on then from Marigold, and let's move back on to Stardom, because as well as the conversion, they've also announced the first match for New Blood 13, the return of the New Blood series for the first time in what seems like forever. That is going to be returning on June the 21st. It is going to be live on YouTube, as all the others were, from Tokyo New Pier Hall. The match that they've announced for this show so far is the New Blood tag titles are going to be on the line, with Winggori defending against Sayaka Kurora and Aya Sakura. And Matt, I don't know if you remember this, but that was the exact match I pitched for the Korakuen Just Gone.
Yeah, you did, my man. And again, we're going to into it and get to these shows. I think I mentioned it a few weeks ago. I'm a huge fan of this tag team of Aya Sakura and Sayaka Kurora. I think they work really well together. And considering the fact that the Cosmic Angels are so loaded, and as friend of the show, Scotty Wrestling always says, the work rate angels of Surianu, Tam, and Natsupoi. And then you throw Yuna in there, who again, Yuna was, in my opinion, the most improved wrestler in all of wrestling last year in 2023. And now we're putting they're great. They're good as singles. They're good in other tag matches. But when these two are teaming together, and we know they're eating a whole bunch of L's, but that's fine. When they're teaming together, that's great. And considering the fact that more than likely this is going to be one of, if not the main event, and it's going to get 14, 15, 16 minutes, and they're gelling really well, and they're both terrific, and you know that Hana and Saya Iida are going to be the ones kind of putting the match together and kind of carrying the majority of the load of this match. I'm really looking forward to this one. I don't think we're going to see a title change, but I think this is going to be an absolute standout performance and basically, coming of age match for the two members of Cosmic Angels. So yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to this match. And the fact that we were getting Winggori in 2 title matches all within a handful of weeks, my friend. Again, Christmas comes early for us here at the Stardom Cast, or late. 6 months early or 6 months late, depending on how you look at it.
Depending on your outlook on life. It's an interesting one because I don't think anyone in the world anticipates a title change here. Aya Sakura is 0-6 in tag matches. Sayaka Kurora is 2-13 in tag matches. It's not a stellar record. And I don't think a title change, or even the fact that this is a title match, is what this is about. It's putting that spotlight on Sayaka Kurora and Aya Sakura and going, right, you've got 16 minutes, show us what you've learned. You know, you've got two very experienced wrestlers in there, in Hanan and Saya Iida. Saya Iida, who I think is on the run of her life at the moment. Hanan as well. I think that is more what this is about. Right, you've got this time, let's see what you can do. Yes, at the end of the match, you are going to be in the L, but show us in that intervening 12, 13, 14 minutes exactly what you're about. Make people believe, because like you say, you know, they have been eating a whole lot of L's, but in terms of improvement, I think they're doing tremendously well. Obviously, Aya Sakura was out for a long time with an injury, and Sayaka Kurora was sort of the pinfall queen for a while. So I'm looking forward to the match. Whether it main events obviously will depend on whether Rena will be defending the future belt. I imagine she will be, but I don't think they've set anything up for that recently. They certainly haven't on these three cards that we're going to be talking about today. So we'll see where that goes. But all in all, I think it's going to be a really good match. I think both Sayaka Kurora and Aya Sakura are going to surprise a couple of people with how competent they are in the ring, in a good way. I mean, not in a bad way, obviously. I think it's going to be a really good match, but obviously Hanan and Saya Iida to retain. Then we're talking about these...
Real quick, buddy.
Oh, sorry, go on.
Real quick, buddy. I'm just going to throw this in there. I think, and we're going to get into it, talk about listener retention. I think they did set something up for Rena's next title defense, and I think it's against Rana Yugami. I think they set something up there on the Korakuen show because they were, I mean, obviously Rana brings it and Rena does as well. But they made it a point in that match to really focus on the two of them. And I even put it in my notes, because I just watched it yesterday, that maybe that's just wishful thinking, because that's a match that I want, and I know that you want, and I think a lot of people like to see. Again, maybe it's just wishful thinking, but I think that's what they were building towards in that Korakuen Hall show, my friend. Because they built to a lot, brother. They built to a lot.
They really did, just in the main event. I'll be perfectly honest, man. I'll be very, very happy to be wrong, because Rana Yagami versus Rena will be a very, very good match. Again, don't think Rana Yagami would win, because I think that Stardom will be looking for Rena to surpass the record before she drops the belt to presumably Hina, but I could be wrong. We'll talk a little bit about that as we go on. A little note on the Stardom World schedule for June. Only 2 shows of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 shows in June. Only 2 are video on demand. Obviously, you've got the one on YouTube, which is New Blood 13. You have got 2 pay-per-views, Stardom in Nagoya, which is from the Nagoya International Conference Center, the card of which we will go through at the end of the show, June 8th, and then obviously the conversion, which is going to be in June the 22nd. But everything else, aside from the Toyama and Shizuoka shows, which is 4 different dates, are all live. So we are progressively getting closer to all live streams on Stardom World, which is obviously huge deal. Very excited for that, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like your new gimmick, my man, of the conversion. That's it. Sell your gimmick, kid. Good job. But yeah, again, they're upping the production quality, and again, even on a lot of these shows that we're going to be talking about, the camera work just seems to be getting better and better as we're getting clearer shots. We're getting closer, more in the ring shots, and you're getting really to see the impact these submissions and kicks and strikes have. So Stardom is really upping the game when it comes to production quality. And again, we're seeing more and more VODs. And again, one of the reasons why I love the New Blood shows is they're live on YouTube, which I think is something absolutely genius. I think Stardom should do 2 or 3 shows free on YouTube, just as, you do a KBS Hall show. Just because it's going to be free on YouTube. One, it's going to get your YouTube numbers up, which is going to help with your advertising. It's going to bump up your advertising revenue. And 2, the people that aren't sure if they want to spend their $6 or $7 a month on Stardom World, which again, why wouldn't you? But that don't want to spend $6 or $7 on Stardom World, they can watch these shows free on YouTube, and they may say, you know what? I'm going to give this Stardom World a shot. It's only going to cost me a few dollars a week, and then they'll be able to watch the shows as they happen and go through that massive back catalog of, you know, the great stuff of Mayu, EO, so on and so forth. So yeah, really good stuff there, my friend. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm glad that they are upping the production quality on what they're doing over at Stardom World.
Yeah, because I think Korakuen Hall, for me at least, I think was the most flawless stream that Stardom have done. In terms of like camera quality, camera cuts, in terms of, you know, just everything feeling right. In terms of the YouTube thing, I know that Dragon Gate, for example, they will put the first 2 matches of every card onto YouTube. At least I think it's every card onto YouTube as sort of a taster. Obviously, I know that Stardom does this for the pay-per-views for the pre-show, but these are the actual 2 opening matches of the card. And I know that New Japan do it for some shows. And that could be something that Stardom look at, to be perfectly honest, to really get people invested in buying that show, is to put the 2 first matches on YouTube. Because that will, you know, Stardom always start with a hot first match. So that's going to bring potentially more and more people into it. It's an idea, but obviously with them doing more and more live streaming, it's certainly an option. We talked a little bit about Marigold. This is just a quick one, that Julia will be on commentary for the upcoming Korakuen Hall show that we've just gone through the card with. Fuka will also be on commentary as well. It is worth noting that Julia, who of course was injured in that main event of Marigold Fields Forever, she has had surgery. It was successful, and she has gone on record saying that she can move her fingers again, which is brilliant. And on top of that, she's also been at every show that she can attend when she's not in hospital. So that's pretty tremendous effort as well. Moving on to Starlight Kid, who was defending her Spark Joshi World Championship today at Kawai Shimai against Momoka Hanazano. She did, in fact, retain that belt in 14 minutes and 54 seconds, submitting Momoka Hanazano with the Black Tiger Leg Killer. Matt, obviously, neither of us have had chance to watch this match. But I'm very excited to see if it makes its way onto Stardom World with all the Pro Wrestling Wave stuff, and then obviously Aya Sakura's little excursion to Diana. They went up in pretty short order, so I'm hoping this follows suit.
Yeah, I think it will, considering the fact that Starlight Kid she's come out to every show with the Spark Joshi Heavyweight Championship. By every show, I mean every Stardom show. So I wouldn't be shocked if it's on Stardom World in the next handful of days. I know over the past few days they were trying on Twitter, on social media, to sell tickets, like how you would, you put the link up, like, hey, here's what's available. It looked like the first 2 or 3 rows were sold out like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So that was really, really good. The fact that the Spark Joshi / Colors show did really, really well. I'm not sure if they had VOD service on how we were able to watch this live. But again, I would imagine that this is going to be something that's going to pop up on Stardom World in the next handful of days. And I hope it does, because obviously we have friends of ours that work for the Spark Joshi promotion. Obviously, CB, who listens to the show, and hi, CB. We hope that you're doing well and you're enjoying your trip over in Japan. She's doing tremendous things by bringing the Joshi style up to professional wrestling over the United States. And of course, it's Starlight Kid and Momoko Hanazono. That's got to be really, really good. You said, went like 16 minutes? Is that what you said, partner?
14 minutes and 54 seconds.
That's a lot. I mean, that's a good time to have both those wrestlers tell their story. So that's awesome that those 2 wrestlers got around 15 minutes. So I'm really, really looking forward to that one. And again, one way or another, for some reason, if it does not go up on Stardom World, I'm sure me and you will figure a way out to watch and talk about it right here on this show. And it might even be the same week we talk about the conversion. See, I kind of stole your gimmick. Sorry.
It's absolutely fine, because that is how we're going to do it. And I blame Sky Wrestling for pointing that out now. So he writes in all capitals, therefore I must shout it. Mayu Iwatani gave an interview not so long ago with Samurai TV. And again, we thank Mira Wrestling on Twitter for bringing us the... what's the word I'm looking for? Translations. My mind went blank then. And Maya was talking about if she had thought about going to Marigold and why she ultimately decided against it. And this is the quote that she gave, and I thought this was really telling. I myself even thought about transferring at one point. On top of that, I had many conversations with Ogawa-san and the current president, Taro Okada. The answer I finally came to was that if Utami Hayashishita, and Julia were gone, and Ogawa-san and Mayu Iwatani were gone, Stardom would no longer be Stardom. I have to properly repay the favour to the company that has allowed me to work there for 13 years. I also owe a lot to Ogawa-san, but I think I have been able to repay him by working hard up until now. So from now on, I will properly give back to the company. As long as I am there, Stardom will remain Stardom. It was really something I thought on my own, but after talking with Okada-san about it, I decided to stay. Now, look, obviously, we talked a little bit about this. We've talked about how we're not really sure whether this is, a PR thing in regards to Mayu. She's under contract to Stardom. She's not going to outwardly say, yeah, I'm going to go to Marigold when my contract expires. However, I thought this was a really eye-opening reason as to why she's not leaving, at least not yet. And I thought that quote, that Stardom wouldn't be Stardom without Utami, Julia, Ogawa, and Mayu, and she's sort of taken it upon herself to remain that linchpin of Stardom. Now, they say that the nickname Icon isn't given, it's earned, and I think Mayu has shown here that she's taken that moniker and she's taken it to heart, I think, in the fact that she wants to be that person that, Stardom can rally around. And I think it's interesting that she feels like she's paid off that debt to Ogawa, and now she wants to repay that debt in terms of Stardom, Matt. I thought it was a really interesting conversation with Mayu.
Yeah, I know we kind of almost go back and forth, or we have, and I think me and you were just like, let's just let it go, and then whatever happens. Obviously, we're fans of both the Marigold and Stardom promotion. Obviously, me and you are huge fans of Mayu Iwatani. I think me and you both agree she's the greatest women's wrestler maybe ever of all time. So it's just like wherever she goes, and there was obviously some PR things that she had to do. She's never going to bury Stardom while she's there, and she'll, even if she decides to leave, she would never bury Stardom. That doesn't seem like the type of person that Mayu is. But when she comes out with this interview, regardless if it's PR or not, when she says that, well, Ogawa, Utami, and Julia left, I need to stay here. I repaid my debt back to Ogawa by drawing all the good cards, by working my tail off, I guess, pun intended, because she has the tail thing, which I didn't even mean to do, go me, but by putting in all these great matches and spreading the word of Stardom that I've repaid my debt and I'm going to stay in Stardom. Again, if it's PR and then she decides to go to Marigold, I think a lot of people are going to go, especially the diehard Stardom fans, are going to pick back up this interview and be like, well, Maya, you're a hypocrite. You just said you decided to stay in Stardom because you need to be here, because you're the icon of Stardom that was given to you. So again, I know everybody's minds change, not just in wrestling, but in life. We change our minds or change our opinions. But Mayu, at least in this interview, from what I got out of it, it really seems like she's dead set on staying with Stardom. And I know earlier today there was an interview, and it might have been part of this interview, I don't know, but I just saw on Twitter that she did say that her current goal is to surpass Okada's V13 run for the most IWGP championship defenses. And I think right now she's on V5 with Fujimoto scheduled up for V6. And that may take another year or so to get there if that's like her new ultimate goal. And if that's her ultimate goal, I think that's great, because when we think of IWGP, we think of, the Hashimoto's, the Mutas, the Okadas, and that Okada reign that he had the most successful title defenses with. Not only is it the most successful, but as far as work rate goes, that might be the greatest run in the history of pro wrestling. I mean, just some phenomenal matches. But Mayu's like, yeah, I want to surpass that. And considering the fact that it's like, again, we think of IWGP, we think of those men, but let's think about Mayu. And I think that's great for Mayu elevating herself, the company, and that belt that she wants to surpass Okada. And where's Okada now? Oh, he's on national TV. So I thought that was great. But yeah, again, we don't know where Mayu's going to go. But based on this interview, from what I read, it really seems like she's staying foot in Stardom. Now, does that mean that she's going to stay foot in Stardom forever? No. Everybody's minds and opinions change. But she really seems like she owes a debt to Stardom, and she's going to be there for life. Could I be wrong? Sure. Everybody's minds change, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. I just, I was very firmly in the corner that I thought Mayu would be leaving to join Marigold. And she might still at the end of her contract. Who knows? There's only really Mayu that knows. But I thought this was a really powerful thing to say. And even if she does only stay in Stardom for the next year or whatever it is, sort of putting that on herself really shows that, how much work she's willing to do, how hard she's willing to go. I mean, we've already said that this year she's had some absolutely incredible matches. The Syuri IWGP title defense, the Sari IWGP title defense, the tag match with Hanan against Best Friends. There's just been match after match after match. She's been on almost another level. And it does show that, wherever I am, whatever I'm doing, I am giving 110%. But the way she worded this really did persuade me that, maybe she is staying in Stardom. And I don't think that's a bad thing. One thing I did say was, well, she's achieved everything she needs to achieve. However, if she wants to surpass Okada as the winningest, for lack of a better word, winningest IWGP champion of all time, then, that's a massive goal to achieve. And if she can only achieve that in Stardom, why would she leave? There's no rush necessarily to leave to go to Marigold. So, if she does indeed go. So, my opinion is shifted somewhat by this interview. Yes, there is always the possibility that it could just be, sort of, I'm not going to bury Stardom whilst I'm here. I'm not going to badmouth Stardom and say I'm going to Marigold at the end of my contract. That's not the way to do business. There is every chance that might be the case. However, the way it reads, the other things she says in this interview, which you can read the translations again at Mira Wrestling, make me think that this is genuine. And if it is, more power to Mayu. Speaking of another interview, Matt, and of course your favourite wrestler of all time, Miss Tam Nakano. She was talking to Sports Graphic Number and saying how she still has some unsettled business with folks in AEW, specifically Mercedes Moné. So the We Are Stardom Twitter account posted this translated quote. So she said, quote, "When I returned from injury, I took a loss to Aja Kong, and that really disappointed me. But since my return, I've put a lot of time into growing Cosmic Angels and improving the talents of the unit's younger members. Even then, I knew I had to begin fighting for myself. Mercedes Moné used me as a scapegoat, so I want to become champion and settle things with her once and for all." So obviously we knew that there was going to be some sort of residual heat between Tam and Mercedes. Tam had sort of said she wanted to win the TBS title. It was the whole premise for why she wanted to win the TBS championship from Willow Nightingale at Flashing Champions. Obviously she was unsuccessful, but I like the story that Tam is still annoyed that Mercedes Moné stole the spotlight at Wrestle Kingdom in that match that you love so much, Matt. And I think that this could be a little kernel that if we do get a lot of Stardom participation at Forbidden Door, this one makes perfect sense in terms of a TBS championship defense. Why the hell not? Why not have Tam Nakano versus Mercedes Moné? We've already got one match set up between AEW and Stardom for that event, which we'll be talking about later. Why not have Tam versus Mercedes, Matt?
I just want to back up about 90 seconds. Tam Nakano, Rob made mention in an interview with my all-time favorite wrestler. It's not Tam Nakano, it's Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, which Rob knows. So I thought Ricky Steamboat did an interview saying he's coming out of retirement to work for Stardom, and I already had that we're going to get that Mayu versus Ricky Steamboat match. But no, I don't know if you saw AEW last week. At Forbidden Door, it looks like they set up Mercedes and Steph Facker in a title versus title match. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, disappointing. No, to be honest, with the amount of Marigold, Stardom, and books that I'm writing, I don't really have a lot of time for anything else. So, however, Mercedes Moné versus Steph Facker, I'm very, very excited by that anyway, because we did get that at Resurgence when they did the initial title tournament for the New Japan Strong Women's Championship. Am I right?
Yes, sir. So what they did is they did a video package on "Hey, Steph Facker is coming." I'm like, oh, great, because they never really mentioned her before on AEW TV. So it's like, okay, they're probably doing something with her at Forbidden Door because she's the New Japan Strong Champion. Championship, which again, if you believe rumors, which we pretty much had to confirm, they pretty much made that belt so Mercedes Moné could win it. Obviously, she gets hurt with the match with Willow. Things change, right? So they set up, so they have the video package where they just show Steph Vacker being fantastic, which I think Julie was in the package, and I think Azumi as well. So, kudos on them for little Stardom love on AEW TV. And then Mercedes has a impromptu TBS title defense against Sky Blue, which was really, really good. And I know that you're busy, but if you have, 10, 11 minutes, definitely check that match out. And then as soon as the match is over, Steph Vacker comes out. She makes her way like halfway up the entranceway. She lifts her belt above her head, and then Mercedes lifts the TBS belt up her head. So I think that's the way they're going. I think they're doing New Japan Strong versus TBS, champion versus champion, title for title, Mercedes Moné and Steph Vacker at Forbidden Door. However, I know the premise that you want to get to is a Tam versus Mercedes match. You can do that in AEW, or you can do that over in Stardom. Again, Mercedes, she just did an interview not that long ago saying one of the main reasons why she chose AEW over WWE is because she has the freedom to do whatever she wants in AEW. I know she has a makeup line. Obviously, she's doing some stuff for Star Wars, for The Mandalorian, so I'm sure she can do some more acting stuff. And I'm sure part of that deal of doing whatever she wants is wrestling in Japan. She's made it no secret how much she's enjoyed her time in Japan wrestling the Azumis, the Hazukis, the Mayus. And when I got to meet Mercedes at New York Comic Con last year, she was very, very happy about her time in Japan. And I know that's one thing she would like to do. So her and Tam Nakano, whether it's at AEW or some sort of Stardom show, or maybe at a historic crossover too, Electric Boogaloo, that's a possibility because that's going to be a big show. I think that match is going to happen sometime between now and the end of the calendar year. But Forbidden Door, we're getting Mercedes and Steph Vacker. And that's going to be all sorts of great stuff, my friend.
Matt, it's like you read my mind, because the next thing and the last thing that I want to talk about in the news is the address that President Hiroshi Tanahashi gave in a little press conference that he gave. Sort of a 10-point plan that he had in terms of New Japan and how to improve it. Lots of things on that plan, 10 specifically, believe it or not, including improving New Japan World, the app, which has been less than successful, let's say, in also sort of focusing on the youth, retention of talent, things like that. But something specific that he mentioned, I believe it was point 4 on his plan, was there will be more integration of Stardom. Over the coming years, you'll see more of a streamline between the two. And there's a quote here: "You'll see improved operating efficiency between the two companies, as well as improved scheduling, cross-promotion, and more Stardom wrestlers competing in New Japan in the near future as we work to grow both promotions. There will also be a crossover event to come later this year, with more details to be announced very soon." So, couple of things to take from this is the cross-promotion things, the trying to improve the New Japan World. I mean, I've made no secret about how it would be stupid for Stardom not to have their stuff on New Japan World. Like, they literally share a title. You've seen the success of Wrestle Universe. Why not just put both on there? You've got all the footage on Stardom World, port it over onto New Japan World. If you are looking at bettering that app, because at times since its launch, it has been an absolute dumpster fire, which I think everyone who has had that app will agree, including people at New Japan. But in terms of cross-promotion, in terms of wrestlers appearing on the different shows, we've seen that benefit Hanako. We saw Mayu and Mina have the best match of the New Beginning show. I'm all for this because I think it can only benefit Stardom. The success of the crossover event in 2022, there has to be a second one. There has to be a second one because, again, 7,000 people had eyes on Stardom. Again, match of the night, Mayu Iwatani versus Kairi for the IWGP Women's Championship. So Stardom and New Japan would be stupid not to do a new historic crossover, and obviously that's what Hiroshi Tanahashi is sort of going for. The one thing I did want to bring up On top of all this is the Hiroshi Tanahashi also brought up about the strong titles. So the New Japan Strong Openweight Championship, the New Japan Strong Women's Championship, and the New Japan Strong Tag Team Championships. He said that, quote, New Japan Strong Championships will be restored to their original roles of being defended exclusively on American events. So we will not be seeing Steph Vaca defending the New Japan Strong Championship in Stardom. So whereas with Julia, we saw Julia defending the belt against, for example, Natsuko Tora on a Stardom Korakuen, that will no longer be happening. And I think giving those belts a specific identity is only going to be a benefit. And it's certainly going to benefit the IWGP Women's Championship to be able to sort of say, right, yes, we're going to defend the New Japan Strong Women's Championship in America, but Mayu, you can defend this IWGP Women's Championship everywhere else. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess now we have borders. We kind of have an idea of where we want to go. And it really seems like Tanahashi knows what he wants to do now that he's kind of have more of a foothold in New Japan. I mean, you look at what Triple H, one of the greatest wrestlers in WWE history, has been able to do with the WWE, considering the fact that for over 40 years, one guy has ran the whole thing, left for reasons I'm sure everybody knows about, we won't talk about, and is doing a tremendous job. And I think a lot of people agree with me. This is the best WWE's been in a long, long time. So now you take Tanahashi, and New Japan was great from like 2012, and then COVID hit. And then it just seems like they just couldn't rebound from COVID. And they've had some really good shows and some really good matches, but have never able to really fully recover. Tanahashi, we love him. We see him in the ring. He still can go, but obviously he's put a lot of miles on that body for our entertainment, and one of the greatest to ever do it. And God bless you. We love you, Tanahashi. But if this is his new role he's going to get into, where he's going to be running New Japan, where he can still help the business, especially New Japan, with his mind and his ideas, this is great. And considering the fact that he's got a hot product like Stardom to work with as well, that's going to be terrific. And yeah, maybe we do get some sort of Mercedes Moné on that show. Again, they're going to want to draw 6,000, 7,000 people. That's an easy way to do it. Mixing in certain talents on historic crossover too, with the New Japan and the Stardom talent. So that's the way to go about it. But if you take a look at Steph Vaca when she won that belt from Julia, we know why that she won it, because Julia was on her way out. We were kind of almost fantasy booking. We're going to get some New Japan Strong Championship defenses in Stardom. Apparently that's not going to happen by what we have here, which we have structure, which is fine. However, if the AEW is putting together video packages and giving Steph Vaca TV time, they're going to want her defend that belt on AEW TV. That means we're going to see great matches with the Serena Deebs, with the Sky Blues, so on and so forth, because the AEW women's division is very good. However, AEW has a working relationship with Stardom. So who's not to say on a Collision or a Dynamite we don't see Steph Vaca versus Zumi, the rematch for that belt, or versus Mina, or versus Momo Watanabe, or Saya Kamatani. I mean, these matches are real possibilities, Rob. The fact that we may see, Steph Vaca versus Suzuki on a Collision, or on and I watch AEW, that's obviously Stardom and Marigold, that's where my focus is, where my time is spent. But I watch a lot of AEW. Number one, I absolutely love the product. Number two, I have friends that work for that company, both in front of and behind the camera, and I will always support my friends. The fact that you're going to be thrown, there's a possibility we may be seeing some Steph Vaca versus like the top tier talent of Stardom on AEW TV or a pay-per-view. I'm like, you already sold me 10 times over. What's another 5 or 6? You know what I mean, my friend?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it is worth noting as well that obviously Stardom very soon will become a fully owned subsidiary of New Japan. So the chances of, I keep harping back to the streaming services, but the chances of Stardom being featured on New Japan World makes far more sense because they are literally owned by New Japan. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Obviously, AEW having this partnership with Stardom and with New Japan would benefit Stardom wrestlers going over to America to see, again, we saw it with Azumi on Collision, and they could do great things with the likes of a Hazuki or something like that going over. So we will see how that goes, how that pans out. But let's move on to our show reviews, because we are over an hour into the podcast and we have 3 shows to talk about. We're going to start, Matt, with the show from the 28th of May, the Tuesday show from the Edion Arena, Osaka, number 2. 281 people in attendance, which is down from the previous time they ran the venue, 389 people in April. It's also the lowest at the venue this year. It is worth noting that, of course, this show did take place on a Tuesday. And that show in April was on a Sunday, so that could have something to do with it. The results are as follows. The team of Konami and Syuri defeated the team of Sayaka Kurora and Aya Sakura, with Konami submitting Aya Sakura in 11 minutes and 14 seconds with the Triangle Lancer. A 3-way match saw Koguma defeat both Waka Tsukiyama and Rani Yagami. Koguma pinning Waka in 6 minutes and 24 seconds with a diving body press. 6-woman tag team action next, with Starlight Kid's trip around the factions, concluding with her God's Eye team here. Starlight Kid, Saki Kashima, and Amisori defeating the Stars team of Mayu Iwatani, Hazuki, and Momokogo. Starlight Kid submitting Momokogo in 11 minutes and 49 seconds with the Black Tiger leg killer. In your 4th match, we saw an 8-woman tag between Queen's Quest and Cosmic Angels. The Cosmic Angels team of Natsupoi, Saori Anou, Tam Nakano, and Yuna Mizumori defeated the Queen's Quest team of Saya Kamatani, Azumi, Lady C, and Miyu Amasaki. Natsupoi pinning Miyu Amasaki in 11 minutes and 58 seconds with the Fairy Ring. In a ballistic sub-12-minute tag match in your semi-main, Winggori, Saya Iida, and Hanan defeated the Crazy Star team of Suzu Suzuki and Mei Seira. Saya Iida getting the pinfall over Suzu Suzuki in 11 minutes and 40 seconds with the Iida Bashi. And then in your main event, 8-woman tag match, sort of a prelude for the Artist of Stardom belt match in Korakuen. The Uedetai team of Natsukatora, Momo Watanabe, Tekla, and Fukigen Death defeated the EXV team of Maika, Mina Shirakawa, Xena, and Hanako. Tora pinning Hanako in 13 minutes and 10 seconds with the Swanton Bomb. Matt will talk about this semi-main event very shortly, because what a bloody match that was. But what else on this card should people be going out of their way to see?
I wouldn't necessarily, and I know there's a lot of wrestling to watch, not only in Stardom, the Joshi scene, but just all in general. But I wouldn't go out of my way to see it, but at the same time, if you're a completist or you just really enjoy hard-hitting wrestling, match number 1 was really good. And I think I made a joke last week when we previewed this match that match number 1 was Konami and Sherry versus the rookies of Sayaka Kurora and Aya Sakura. I made a joke like, did the Cosmic Angels rookie piss anybody off in the office that they drew Konami and Sherry? And this was a damn good match. I had it at 3 3/4 stars. Great way to start the show. Konami and Sherry are legit badasses. Obviously, Sherry, we talk all the time, as former MMA fighter, Queen of Pancrase, like just as badass, as legit as they come. Konami's right there with her. And Konami at the end of this month is going to be competing in Josh Bartlett's Bloodsport over at Sumo Hall, which I'm really excited to watch her in that, because she's one of my favorite wrestlers to watch. But Aya Sakura and Sayaka Kurora really bring it. And Konami and Sherry, they give enough back to the rookies to show their fire, and they sell enough where it's not, downplaying how badass Sherry and Konami are, but it gets over Aya and Sayaka Kurora to the point where it's like they can almost hang with the former finalist of the 5-star Grand Prix in Konami and the former red belt champion of Sherry. So I thought this was good on Sherry and Konami, just how awesome they look as a tag team, and we'll get into it later how they did make mention on a post-match press conference that they're gunning for the Goddess of Stardom tag belts in the summer, which I'm really intrigued with. But yeah, they made the 2 Cosmic Angels rookie look really, really good. And again, it's not if you lose, it's how you lose. They shined them up enough where they're making them look better. And Shuri and Konami as a team partner, I'm all for it. I thought this was really, really good. Thoroughly enjoyed this. A great way to start off this show.
Agreed. Thought it was really, really good. I enjoyed the God's Eye team versus Mayu's team. And I'm especially enjoying Saki Kashima's fake high-speed title because why not? It suits her character down to the ground. We've now seen Starlight Kid with every single faction, Matt. What is your opinion? Where should she go? Where would you put Starlight Kid now?
Yeah, I agree. I just want to real quick. I absolutely love this match. Momo, we talked about Xena probably being the most improved wrestler of the year. Momoko, and again, we're only 5 months in the year. Momoko was right there. I agree. This match was really good as well. I had it at 3 3/4 stars. But to answer your question, there's really like no wrong answer. Like obviously, my go-to would be like Queen's Quest, right? But at the same time, Queen's Quest has so many stories going on that if you throw Starlight Kid in there, you'll be like, all right, how do we keeping track of this? EXV, she fits because of like how well she gels with Mina, but I don't know if that would be her vibe. Stars and Cosmic Angels are so loaded at the top right now, especially like you look at like what they're doing with Stars, pushing Saya Iida up a little bit more to the main card, and rightfully so. And obviously Hanen's great, Hazuki's terrific, Kagaba's great, especially when she's with Hazuki, and obviously Mayu's the leader there. So it's just she get lost in the shuffle there.
Yeah.
Obviously, Tam is courting her for Cosmic Angels. I think Tam, in that same interview that we talked about earlier, she did say that she did make mention that if Starlight, she would make the sacrifice to put the mask over her own face if Starlight Kid came to Cosmic Angels. I'm like, let's pump the brake a little bit here. I'm sure the merchandising team was like, red alert, like, oh my goodness, no, don't, Tam, don't do that. Like, what this goes to show the commitment Tam has in bringing Starlight Kid over Cosmic Angels. It looks like the way that she's being pushed, it's going to go to Stars or Cosmic Angels. But again, they are so set, heavy set at the top. Is it a new faction? Are they going to be breaking things off with Queen's Quest because of Saya wanting Momo, Azumi not wanting Momo? Now Azumi might be on the same. I don't know. Does it go there? Or it's that, obviously the one answer is not a Wedo tie. Again, we made mention a year ago that Starlight Kid is one she's one angle away of breaking out of a Wedo tie and doing her own thing because she's such a great baby face. Like she's so over with the crowd. So that's the only wrong answer is a Wedo tie, but I can see it any other faction. I mean, God's Eye might need, even though God's Eye is kind of like the killer group outside of Saki Kashima, she's like kind of the comedy, but they need another main eventer in that group. Like Shuri is obviously the main eventer there. Kunami and Amisori, you can plug in main events from time to time. I mean, I think she would probably fit the best in there because they need the main event experience in God's Eye. I mean, I would love to see her at Queen's Quest, but that's a great question. But if you're asking me right now on the spot where she's going to go, I'm going to say Stars, but you know how I am when it comes to predicting these factions. But yeah, I mean, the genius booking on this is she worked well with every single faction and everyone wouldn't make sense. So there's no real wrong answer. But again, the fact that Meisera and Suzuki are still no faction, maybe they create their own faction and Starlight Kid comes in and maybe they grab like a Lady C or maybe one person from every faction to build their own. I don't know, but I'm going to say it's going to be Stars. But how about you?
I mean, just across the board, there seems to be so much upheaval in factions at the moment. Like, obviously, you've got all the stuff going on with Queen's Quest, and that's aside from Lady C being courted for God's Eye. You've got everything going on with Queen's Quest in general with Azumi, Saya Kamatani, Momo Watanabe. You've got dissension in the ranks with Tora spitting mist into Momo's face. You've got Xena and Micah and EXV, though that obviously is probably just a vehicle for the title match. But every faction seems to have some issues. You've got Natsupo and Orianu, who are, you've got that bubbling under the surface for the white belt. So, I mean, you could go somewhere really dramatic and just say, do you know what? Let's do another Stardom draft. Let's realign these factions. Let's do another draft. There hasn't been one since 2019. We don't know whether there would have been one in 2020 and whether it was just that COVID put a kibosh on it. I don't know. But, I mean, that would freshen things up massively and would potentially sort of bring a climax to all of this unrest. However, that being said, I mean, Cosmic Angels is a good shout to a certain extent. I think she'd fit with the babyface vibe. With that, obviously, she's got the relationship with Natsupoi as part of mutual love. You might not be happy with Tam wearing a mask. However, I imagine one person who will be very happy with Tam in a mask is Amber.
I thought you were going to say Tekla. I was going to say Tekla. Yeah. I really thought he was going to go Tekla. He mentioned my wife. Well, I think she would be like, oh, that. I think she'd still be like, that mask looks stupid. That's the worst mask in the history of wrestling.
You know, there's cases for her to be in EXV. I'd like to see her in Stars. And the only reason I'd like to see her in Stars is because I think it then gives a little bit of a storyline for Hazuki. Again, we don't know what is going on down the line. I think what happens with Queen's Quest is going to have a knock-on effect on the rest of the roster. Because, you know, if Momo Watanabe ends up going to Queen's Quest, then obviously you're going to have both Miyu Amasaki and Izumi who have publicly said that they don't want Momo Watanabe in Queen's Quest. I imagine those two will leave, which means you've then got those two free. So, again, it does depend. However, I think Stardom have done very well in booking this angle because, you know, again, she could go anywhere, and I don't think there's a real tangible case for her not to go to any other faction, like you mentioned, apart from an Oedetai. And the only thing that I would say is it shouldn't be a sideways motion. And I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. If Starlight Kid is leaving, she needs to leave and become a main eventer, the main eventer. Okay, so I don't want to see her sidestep and become second or third in command like she was in Oedetai, because she was second or third in command in Stars, left to do the heel turn with Oedetai, finally grasped the high-speed championship, had a couple of white belt matches, you know, up to stock, certainly. The worst thing she can do now is go into Stars and nothing happen and she just fall back into line, or she goes to Cosmic Angels and she ends up being buried behind Tam, Natsupoi and Sioriano. I think that's the main thing wherever she goes, Matt. More importantly, of where she goes, it's where she's positioned for me.
Rob, real quick, buddy, you just mentioned the 2019 Stardom draft. I just had an image in my head. Was that the same draft that Hana Kimura gave her banana peel to Mayu?
No, that was the 2020 Cinderella.
Oh, for some reason, I thought they were just standing there in the ring, and she's like, "Here's my banana." Yeah, you're right. It was the Cinderella. Anywho, carry on.
Let's talk about the semi-main then, because this was by far and away the match of the tournament. Yet another fantastic tag match in a run of tag matches that Stardom seems to be putting on at the moment that are just absolutely fantastic. And if you look at their tag scene again, you've got Winggori, you've got Crazy Star, you've got O2 Line, you've got Konami and Shiori now, you've got FWC. So you got Mutual Love, you got Meltier. There's so many really, really, really good tag teams, and that's not taking into account Eye Contact as well. So, but this, absolutely breathless. It really was, from the Meisera and Hanan exchanges at the very, very start, that high-speed style, and the focus they put on Saya Iida. Like, Saya Iida was the MVP in this match by an absolute country mile, and her exchanges with Suzu Suzuki. I want that match. I want that singles match in this year's 5-Star Grand Prix, and I want it to go to a time limit draw, and all I want them to do is to hit each other as hard as is humanly possible. I want Goto versus Ishii out of these two people, but genuinely, really, really good tag match. Really good match.
Yeah, by the time this match at Stardom World, it was public knowledge that Suzu Suzuki was going to be out until the 5-star with injury. So we kind of like, okay, like, she's banged up going into this match. So I watch every Stardom match as close as possible because I know it, and I try to do the best I can for this podcast. Obviously, I'm going to watch this one a little closer because it's two of my favorite tag teams. I love tag team wrestling, but I'm even watching it with a closer eye because I'm going to see like how Suzu is working in this match. Brother, correct me if I'm wrong. I would have had it wasn't announced earlier that Suzu was injured. I wouldn't have known because, damn, she did not wrestle this match like she was injured at all.
Not even slightly. And I actually was going to say that exact same thing. At no point did she give any indication at all that she was hurting.
Yeah, and these two teams work great. Obviously, the single stuff is great. The tag stuff with Crazy Star is terrific. The Winggori, the fact that they're doing a really cool running spot where their opponent is in the middle of the ring, either on their butt or on their knees, and they do a running European sandwich. I really, really like that. It adds to the flavor that is Winggori, and the fact that now that Hanen's Cinderella quest is done and her quest for the white belt is done, at least for now. We know eventually she's going to get there. We can put more of a focus on this Winggori team, and obviously we are because we're building up at the end of the month to a tag title match against FWC. But they look terrific here. We're back to Hanan and May Sarah just beating the crap out of each other. We saw a post-match brawl between the two, and that's something that they teased at the beginning of the year, and now we're kind of building it here. Again, obviously the stuff with both teams were really good. But you made mention the focus on here was Saya Iida, and rightfully so. We're building not only this team up, but we're building Saya Iida up. Again, we've already built Hanan up by winning the Cinderella tournament and having one of the best matches on one of the best shows of the year in All-Star Grand Queendom. So we've got Hanan to that next level. We need to build Saya Iida up to that next level so that she looks like a major threat with Hanan to take the tag titles off Hazuki and Kagama. How do we do it here? Very simple. Again, Kiss, keep it simple, stupid. How do we do it here? She goes toe-to-toe and pins Suzu Suzuki. Not just Suzu Suzuki, but Suzu Suzuki, who won the 5-star last year. Suzu Suzuki, who was former tag team champion, former artist champion. Suzu Suzuki, who was in the main event for that vacant World of Stardom championship match that if you go back and watch, obviously Micah gets their hand raised, but it's a legit 50-50 match. Again, you can make the easy argument that Suzu Suzuki was a hairbreadth away of winning the World of Stardom championship. And again, it makes sense. Suzu's going away for a couple months, or for a handful of weeks or a couple months to rest her body up and to heal. And it only makes sense to have her lose here and lose to Saya Iida. So a lot of positive things come out of this match. And obviously, Crazy Star, they don't lose anything by losing this match. The main thing is we're building up Winggori to make them look like a credible challenge for those tag belts that we're getting at the end of the month. And I'm so excited for this Winggori versus FWC match. Again, great match. Just another phenomenal tag match that Stardom is doing. And you made mention about 2 minutes ago, partner, how insanely loaded this tag division is. Not only loaded in the tag division, but like you have like Natsupoi. You can put her in 3 tag teams in Stardom. And right now that she's teaming with, and it's one of the best tag teams in all of Stardom, whether it's Meltier, whether it's Sayoriport, or whether it's Mutual Love. Even in Soriano, you want to put her with Tam. She's had great stuff with Yuna Mizumori, and obviously with Natsupoi. Mayu teaming with Hanan teaming with Saya Iida. Obviously, you have Hazuki and Kagama. Shuri and Konami. All of a sudden, these handful of shows are my new favorite tag team, maybe in all of wrestling. And you even have the lower tier teams like Awaka and Hanako. Aya Sakura and Sayaka Kurora, mentioned them earlier. Even those tag teams that are eating a lot of L's, they're really fantastic to watch. So, and then once Suzu comes back from injury, which we're assuming is going to be at the start of the 5-star Grand Prix, by the end of the 5-star Grand Prix, when that's done and over with, you can team Suzu and May back up and have them, heat them back up for the Goddess of Stardom tournament because they made it to the finals last year. This tag division in Stardom is just absolutely unbelievable. My opinion, nothing comes close to it. They are the best tag division in all of wrestling and one of the best tag divisions I've seen in quite some time. Again, this is a must-see match. If you haven't seen it yet, what are you doing? Pause this or keep listening to it and go and watch this match. This was must-see, 4.25 stars for me, my friend.
Yeah, don't be telling people to pause this, Matt. What are you doing? We need retention, my friend. Come on, ignore what he's just said. But no, really, really, really good match. I'd possibly place it a notch below the 2 fantastic FWC matches we've seen recently. I'd give it 4.25 stars, but absolutely tremendous. And again, we saw it with Xena in the Korakuen Hall show, which we're going to be talking about in a bit. Such a focus was placed on Saya Iida, and she truly feels like she belongs in that upper echelon, which is fantastic. It's a crowded place to be when you consider we're trying to elevate people like Azumi, Starlight Kid, Amisori. You know, it's a big, big block of people, Hanan. But she thoroughly deserves to be there, and it's really good to see her getting the recognition she deserves. As I've said before, Matt, we stand for Saya Iida on this podcast, and it's good to see that she is getting that focus. What did you give this match, my friend?
I give it 4.25 stars, my friend.
So same as me. Let's move on then, Matt, unless you want to talk briefly about the EXV Oedo main event.
That was really good. Don't get me wrong, but the match number 4 with Soriano Tam Natsupoi versus Zumi Sai Kamatani, Lady C Miyu Amasaki. I thought that was great. Well worth the 12 minutes of your time. I actually had that at 4 stars, so I just want to make mention that is an absolute. It's Cosmic Angels and Queen's Quest. I mean, it's going to hit on all sorts of cylinders. But yeah, obviously the main match on this show is the Crazy Star Winggori match that we just talked about. But definitely take 12 minutes to watch Cosmic Angels versus Queen's Quest.
Yeah, and just from my point of view, yes, the EXV versus Oedo match, very, very, very good. But we have sort of seen this throughout the last couple of weeks. We've seen different incarnations of this match. So, it was good. But if you've seen the others, you don't necessarily need to go out of your way to see this main event. Not that there's a knock on it whatsoever. Moving on then to the show from Sendai, 31st of May from Sendai Pit in Miyagi, Japan. 240 people in attendance, which is the lowest attendance for Stardom of 2024, down from the previous attendance of 493 at Sendai Pit, which was back in March. It's also Stardom's highest ever at the venue. And then they ran it again back in January, and they got 331 there as well. Do you think, Matt, that this trend of lower attendances, because we also saw a rather low attendance for the Korakuen Hall that we're going to be seeing as well. I'm willing to discard the Osaka one with it being a midweek show, so I'm willing to write that off. However, we've seen a little bit of a downward trend in attendances for Stardom. Do you think, I assume you don't feel that there's anything to panic about there?
No, but it's definitely something to kind of raise an eye at. And I saw the pictures from the Korakuen show, and I was like, oh, that doesn't look good at all. And considering the fact that, and I understand you're the one show on a Tuesday, but when we had our fantastic interview with Sonny, they made mention of the fact that Marigold was running their first show on a Monday, and Rossi was nervous. He said, well, look, you have Julia, you have Sari, you have Utami. People are going to see it. They're going to figure out a way to see it, and they sold 1,500 tickets. So I see your point there, but at the same time, if people want to see it, they're going to come and see it. The shows were great. Obviously, we've talked great about how great these matches were, and the next few shows were really, really terrific as well. So as far as the in-ring product goes, there's really nothing to worry about there. However, you need to start getting some stories hot. You have a lot of stuff in the canon that people are kind of just waiting to see where it's going to go. And you do need to find out a way, because it is a business. And when you're down 10 tickets, 20 tickets, 50 tickets, 100 tickets, 200 tickets, that's revenue loss. So you really do need to find a way to start putting butts in seats, and whether it's a combination of matches people want to see, maybe championship matches that you have to put on, or angles you have to get. Maybe you need to meld those three together. They'll eventually get there. The booking for the Cinderella tournament was great. They had a lot of sold out shows from when the new brass took over, but it really seems these last 5 or 6 weeks, as far as attendance goes, they're a little bit lower than where they want to be, but as far as in-ring product goes, they're doing terrific. So I think they just need to kind of just find a way to get an angle or a couple of the talents really hot, so they can start selling some more tickets.
Yeah, I think it started with that flashing champion number where they drew less than 1,000 people to Yokohama Budokan. I think that will have been really disappointing. And then you've got 2 Korakuens back-to-back where they haven't reached 1,000 people, 930, I believe, for the last Korakuen show, and then 771 for this one. And you're absolutely right. The pictures that they put online were not great. You think they'd have filled the hard camera side first, but there we are. This card, we'll talk about the card, and we'll sort of mingle in those attendance numbers as well. So we started with Hanako defeating Rian, who made her first appearance in 5 shows, recovering from injury in 7 minutes and 2 seconds with the JP coaster. 6-woman tag, Koguma Momokogo and Saya Iida defeated Godzai, Amisori, Rani Yagami, and Saki Kashima. Saya Iida pinning Rani Yagami with the lariat in 11 minutes and 3 seconds. 6-woman tag team match, the Empress Nexus Venus team of Xena, Mina Shirakawa, and Waka Tsukiyama defeated the Queen's Quest team of Azumi, Lady C, and Miyu Amasaki in 9 minutes and 33 seconds. Xena pinning Lady C with the Thunderstruck. 6-woman tag, the team of Meisera, Starlight Kid, and Syuri defeated the Cosmic Angels team team of Yuna Mizumori, Aya Sakura, and Sayaka Kurora, with Mei Seira pinning Yuna Mizumori with the shooting star in 11 minutes and 32 seconds. 6-woman tag, Oedo Tai, Momo Watanabe, Natsuko Tora, and Rina defeated Maika and the Queen's Quest team of Hina and Saya Kamatani, with Natsuko Tora pinning Hina with the Swanton Bomb in 12 minutes and 18 seconds. But that is not the most important thing to talk about from that match. And then the main event, your Cosmic Angels team of Tam Nakano, Saori Ano, and Natsupoi defeated the Stars team of Mai Watani, Hazuki, and Hanan in 11 minutes and 29 seconds. Natsupoi pinning Hanan with the Fairy Blink. So we did talk a little bit about the attendances, and we did talk about how Stardom have got a lot of irons in the fire. You've got a lot of stories going on, but not necessarily ones you can immediately pull the trigger on. We talked a little bit last week, actually. I believe the exact phrasing I used was Stardom feels like it's very much in a transition period at the moment. It feels like we were building towards All-Star Grand Queendom, and then there wasn't necessarily a plan for where to go next. And that led to, obviously, a Flashing Champions card, which was disappointing in terms of numbers. The match quality was very, very good. You had a fantastic tag match. Really good main event. Obviously, you had Willow Nightingale appear on that card as well. But it was a disappointing number nonetheless. And you've seen a series of disappointing numbers. And for me personally, I think it is that state of transition. And I wonder if Stardom are trying to get towards the 5-star Grand Prix before they start pulling the trigger on some of these storylines. You know, you've got Momo Watanabe in Queen's Quest, you've got the Unrest in Queen's Quest, you've got the Killer Idol storyline with Tekla, you've got where is she going to end up in terms of Starlight Kid. There's a couple of stories, there's a couple of irons in fires, but nothing ready to go, Matt.
Yeah, we'll see. We're going to see where it's going to go. It's really, really interesting. Again, the main thing is they need to, but at the same time, I mean, obviously they need to sell some tickets. At the same time, you don't want to pull the trigger on these storylines if it's too early. Because it's going to be interesting. Yeah, where's Starlight Kid's going to go? What's going on with Momo Watanabe? Because they tease it to a point, or at least what I've seen, that it's almost like if Momo doesn't go to Queen's Quest, there's going to be a backlash from the fans, and you're already going backwards on these last 6 or 7 shows as far as ticket sales go. You know, you made mention where they drew this, but here's what they drew last time and the time before, where I think it's almost something where it's like Momo in Queen's Quest is something that the fans want to see. Our friends that run the English We Are Stardom account about a week or so ago, partner, they put something up on Twitter where it was a side-by-side picture of Momo and Queen's Quest and Momo and Oedo Tai. And it was like, which Momo would you like to see? And I get that you're testing to see what people want to see. Because at the end of the day, if people want to see something, then they're going to pay to see it, right? So that's an easy, smart thing to do. And I kind of went through the retweets and the comments real quick. And it was like 5% said Oedo Tai. 5% said, we don't care. We love Momo. And 90% were like, no, we want to see her in Queen's Quest. So, and I made mention this last week where we were kind of going back and forth where we thought Momo would go. You made mention how it really doesn't make any sense for her to go to Queen's Quest because of, you know, what if she goes and Sai is the leader? It doesn't make any sense. Rob, at the end of the day, if it might make financial sense. If this is something that they want to see, it's just like, well, if people want to see this, put Momo in Queen's Quest, we put the feelers out. We need to do this because, again, storyline wise, it's pro wrestling, folks. You can poke holes at any storyline ever. And you made some good points last week, partner, as you always do, why it wouldn't make sense. But again, at the end of the day, cash is king. And if more people are going to pay to see Momo Watanabe and Queen's Quest, then they have to pull the trigger on it. They really do. And Momo is so talented, and this roster is so talented that you can figure a way for things to work. You know what I mean? But like the roster is definitely not the problem. I mean, this roster is just so insanely loaded. Let's talk about match 4 real quick. Not just the match, but the team of Shuri, Mei Seira, and Starlight Kid. Would you ever think that we would see that team and they'd be that damn entertaining, Rob?
No, absolutely not. And it is worth saying, it is worth reiterating that match quality-wise, these women leave it all in the ring every single match. And no matter what combination of matches we have, it's always really, really, really good because everyone on this roster is really, really good. There's a threshold to get into Stardom because the talent and the quality is so, so good. I think there's a couple of factors. One, I'm going to ask a really hard question shortly, but yeah, that match format is a really, really good indication of what we're talking about. Yes, there's no real rhyme or reason as to why May Sarah Starlight and Syuri are teaming, but it's still a good team. It's entertaining, and it put forward a very, very, very good match. My point with Momo last week, I still stand by. However, obviously, as you mentioned, cash is king. If it makes the most financial sense to put Momo back in Queen's Quest, put Momo back in Queen's Quest. That's not an issue for me whatsoever. However, if you're doing it purely from a booking standpoint, there needs to be a reason. Now, if you are to go along the reason of, think about Starlight Kid. Starlight Kid left and she finally won the high-speed belt. The belt that she was going after and couldn't get while she was in Stars, okay? Yes, she hasn't surpassed Mayu Iwatani yet, but we can work on that. There's at least a little bit of change. Momo, if you think about what she's achieved while she's been in Oedatai, it's nothing she hadn't already achieved. Yes, she's won the Artist belts. She's done that before. Yes, she's won the Goddess belts. She's done that before, okay? Had she won the Y belt again, maybe it would have been a successful turn if she'd have won the Red belt when, it was red hot. It was the hottest angle in Stardom at the end of 2021. Then, yes, I think move her back because she's done something different. This heel turn proved dividends. My only issue is I don't want her to go back and then go just back into what she was doing before, because she's too good. And I think she's proved just how popular she was. You listen to that reaction that she got. A fully heel turn Momo Watanabe, by the way. The reaction she got in America, it was one of the biggest reactions of the entire show. So
I want to talk about that. Yeah, when you're done with your point, I had this thought on my drive into work today. But yeah, finish your point because I wanted to talk about that.
So, it's good in a similar way to Starlight Kid. It's going to be very easy to turn her to turn her face. Sorry, it was just a case of the story needs to be right. Now, my question to you, okay, and I love Micah. Micah is fantastic. Micah feels like a star. Do you think the falling do you think, let me change that, because there's no way the falling attendance is a Micah's fault, and I don't even want to put that out into the universe because that's not what I meant. Do you think Momo Watanabe should have won the Red Belt at Supreme Fight? Not Supreme Fight, sorry, All-Star Grand Queendom.
No, because they put all the eggs in the basket of Micah. Now, can they change that if they give Micah a year run and Momo goes back to Queen's Quest, wins the 5-star, which she's never won, and then defeats Micah at the end of the year? That's a possibility. I know we've been talking about that it could and should be Saya Kamatani. However, we're doing something very interesting to Momo. If you take a look, it seemed like once Rossi left the company, if you take a look, if they had a pen and paper of like, okay, what is the top things we need to do? Really seems like there was a giant focus on Momo Watanabe from the time that Rossi left the company to right now as we're doing this podcast. Because think about it. Wins against Sherry, wins against Utami, wins against Saya, wins against Micah. Pin Micah in that match. I know it was 2 out of 3 falls, but pin Micah in that match, put her in the main event of a show that almost drew 3,000 people. And then even after that loss, was still picking up some big wins. She pinned Saya Kamatani like a week or two ago. So it really seems like, okay, like that number one thing on their list, at least for me, from where I'm looking, is we need to push Momo Watanabe. Now, again, I was literally just thinking about this morning about that giant reaction Momo got at the end of the Philadelphia Stardom show when she came out to challenge Micah. And when she said that I'm the next challenger, that place went absolutely ballistic.
It really
after
did.
they were just already ballistic for that Micah and Megan Bain match. And I didn't think about it again until just this morning, where I thought, okay, like one of the biggest launching pads for Stardom, one of the many positive things they have in their back pocket, is they're a working relationship with AEW. And so you say whatever you, and I know there's people out there that are so anti AEW, and if you message me, I'm ignoring you because I don't have time for that. But at the same time, you have this working relationship with AEW where you can put some of your talent on AEW cards, and you're going to be in front of 500,000, 700,000 people, whatever, watching, maybe 8,000 people paid in the stands. What is the again? I watch every AEW show. What is the AEW crowd like? They like ass kickers. Jon Moxley, Ryan Danielson. Shibata doesn't even speak English, and he's over because he's an ass kicker. I said to Sherry, Rob, there's no bigger ass kicker than Momo Watanabe. We've seen Azumi over there, right? And we knew when we did Taka's Jericho a year ago, the first time we went on there, Jerry, he asked us, who would you like to see in AEW? I said Azumi because she's somebody that's completely different. There's nobody else like her. We know eventually Mina would go because the American audience would fall in love with her because of just how charismatic and how great she is in the ring. Momo Watanabe is somebody completely different. Like, she will go out there and she will just go and she'll throw forearms, she'll throw kicks, she'll get the match over, she'll get you over, she'll make sure she's got great crowd psychology. And the American audience already loves her. She's wrestled twice in America in the last 5 or 6 years, and they already love her. So that might be something where maybe they were looking at the end of that show, something we've never seen. We didn't even think about until 2 or 3 weeks ago. I was like, maybe we should turn her back babyface, get her over to America, get more eyes on the product, then bring her back over to Stardom, sell more tickets, sell more Stardom World subscriptions. Maybe they're really thinking outside the box. But again, if you connect the dots, Rob, it all makes sense. It really, really does. If that's the way they're going to go with it. Again, I just think with the low attendance that they've been having, with how much everybody's buzzing that this might happen, if they don't pull the trigger on it, I think people are going to sour on it.
It's going to be interesting because obviously you had here, and we'll talk about it now, you had Momo whisper something to Saya Kamatani. Now, obviously we don't know what that was. We've seen something similar with Tam and Starlight Kid, though she did whisper into the ear of Starlight Kid's mask, which really made me laugh. But in terms of, there's an argument to be made that this is somehow going to break Queen's Quest up. So, Momo pretends that she's going to go back to Queen's Quest and then doesn't, and Oedo Tai comes out on top. Queen's Quest end up breaking up because of the dissension that's been sort of growing. And I think if you do that, we've talked about falling numbers. I think if you break up Queen's Quest, that's a surefire way to get the numbers to continue to fall.
Especially with no DDM. I just want to make that mention. You lost DDM for obvious reasons, and then you're going to lose Queen's Quest all within 6, 7, 8 months. That would just be an unbelievably awful decision, in my opinion.
Completely agree. Now, in an ideal world, Momo Watanabe would have won the red belt as a heel. I think Stardom did miss a trick when they turned a heel because, as I mentioned, the angle was so hot. If they are going to turn a face, please don't pull a double turn, because there's just no need. Now, I know that obviously last time Oedo Tai faced off with Queen's Quest in a high-stakes match, Queen's Quest came out on top in that fantastic cage match. So you could argue that Oedo Tai had due a victory. They lost here in the Artist of Stardom Championship match at Korakuen Hall. So yes, they are due a win. Please don't do it at the expense of Queen's Quest, because as proved, you need those stories going forward. And I don't feel like Oedo Tai coming out on top is the way to go here, anyway. Obviously, Momo has whispered something to Saya. What it is that Saya has said to Momo that's made her rethink her joining of Oedo Tai, I don't know. But if she's to join Queen's Quest, as I've already said, I don't just want it to be more of the same. I want her to go. I want her to be at the top of the card. And I know that obviously we're in a Bushi Road era, and the whole thing about Momo was she hasn't got the look. Okay? She's not as good looking as XYZ, so we're not going to put her at the top of the card, which unfortunately is pro wrestling, and that's always been the case in both men's and women's wrestling. There are plenty of reasons as to why certain men have never held the belt. It's because they're not as visually marketable, let's say, which is absolute nonsense, but there we are. I think if you put Momo Watanabe on top of the company with the red belt, I think there will be a lot of positive reaction. Obviously, you've only just had her challenge for the red belt, so you are going to have to lay off, but a face turn would heat her back up to sort of challenge Micah for that red belt further down the line. Again, it's all speculation at this point. I am excited, but I'm also a little bit nervous because I don't know where this is going. And It's worth putting our faith in the booking committee because Stardom, in fairness, we've mentioned it before, Taro Okada had never done wrestling booking before. He'd been part of a wrestling club at university. Not the same thing, but they haven't put a foot wrong as of yet. Okay? The booking has been good. The matches have been good. The championship matches, the championship changes have all made sense. Even the Artist of Stardom belts at Korakuen, which I thought should have gone to a Weretai, because it's playing into the wider Queen's Quest story, I didn't hate it. I was absolutely fine with it. We will wait and see. We can give them time. We'll see what comes of it. One positive, of course, is that following the main event, Mikuru Iwata came out, Matt. You called it, my friend.
Yeah, first of all, what a great main event. I had it at 4 stars. My favorite match of this show. Obviously, Soriano, Tam Nakano, and Natsupoi, the work rate Angels, getting the victory over probably the A squad of the stars with Hanan, Hazuki, and Mayu. Yeah, great match. I mean, Tam and Mayu work so well together. Obviously, Hazuki violence, and we're teasing more of Hazuki versus Saori Anu, which I think that's a way they're going to go eventually. Or it might even be, if we don't have the time to get there, it might be like the main event of night 1 of the 5-star Grand Prix. Maybe Hazuki gets the win, and then later on in the year, challenges for the Wonder Belt. That's a way they can go with it. Hana looks terrific here. Her stuff with Soriano was great, and her and Natsupoi, they're like legit like 2-minute sprint towards the finish, where eventually Natsupoi finally getting a win. I think she's won 1 or 2 matches since back from injury. God bless her. But she keeps like saying, we're so excited. Everyone's like, eventually Natsupoi is going to defeat Soriano to win the Wonder Belt. I'm like, I'm all there with you, but can we get Natsupoi a few wins? For crying out loud, she's eating L after L. It's like, oh, come on. Like, and you know, obviously we want to heat Natsupoi back up. I think that's what they're going to do in the 5-star Grand Prix, and then the fall and winter months going after Soriano. But Natsupoi was great here. Nice to see her getting a win on a main event show. Terrific match. This is, if you want to watch one match from this show, it's definitely this one. Again, 4 stars. And then, Mika Iwata comes out and basically challenges Soriano for the Wonder of Stardom Championship. And I've seen a very, very few small portion of the Stardom audience saying, well, what did Mika Iwata do to deserve a Wonder of Stardom Championship? Shouldn't it be Hazuki? Shouldn't it be Natsupoi? Shouldn't it be Xena? I see your point and I agree. But at the same time, are you really complaining we're getting a dream match, a Joshi dream match between Mika Iwata versus Saori Anu, and it's for the Wonder of Stardom Championship? Like, really? Is that where we're at, guys? Just enjoy it. Just enjoy it, because it's going to be a great match. Is the winner going to be predictable? Sure, but who cares? It's like saying, I ordered a steak, and they brought me a steak. Well, you're so predictable. That's what you ordered, and it's going to be great. I'm sure your steak's going to be delicious, and this match is going to be terrific. Again, Mika Iwata, Saori Anu, yes, please. Maybe I'm being a little bit greedy, but I want that Iwata versus Sherry match. But if this is all that we get out of it, still, it's an absolute plus, because I'm a huge fan of Mika Iwata, and obviously a huge fan of her tag team with, I forget how to pronounce her name, Takasi, with Red Energy. One of my favorite, probably my favorite, now the Inaba sisters are probably my favorite Stardom Stardom contracted tag team, but Red Energy's right there as well. I know they work for Sendai Girls, so I know with Chir Hashimoto coming in from time to time, it looks like they seem to have a good relationship with Sendai Girls. Hopefully we see this partnership happen in the near future. We do see maybe one of these wrestlers wrestling either the 5-star Grand Prix and or the Goddess of Stardom tournament. But regardless, my man, super excited for what is going to be another must-see defense of the Wonder of Stardom Championship coming up on the 22nd of June.
Yeah, and just to sort of reiterate, Mika Iwata is the Sendai World Champion, Sendai Girls World Champion, should I say, is for the second time and has held it for 260 odd days. So excellent stuff there. They have faced each other twice in singles competition, both times going to a time limit draw, with the latest being in February 2024. So there is reason behind this challenge. Maybe this time is the time we get our definitive winner. And then, of course, if Saori Anu defeats Mika Iwata, she technically has a claim to the Sendai Girls World Championship as well. So maybe we'll see that later down the line as well. Let's move on then, Matt, to the Korakuen Hall show. from the 2nd of June. It was a live stream, as I've already mentioned. 771 people in attendance. Second lowest Korakuen of the year. I feel like all of the attendances have been real negatives in this podcast, so I apologize for that. But these are the match results. Three-way match. The fake high-speed champion Saki Kashima defeated Meisera and Rian in 5 minutes and 42 seconds. Tag team match, Amisori and Rani Yagami defeated the Oedetai team of Fukigen Death and Rina, with Amisori pinning Fukigen Death in 8 minutes and 18 seconds with the Blue Thunderbomb. A 6-woman tag, the Stars team of Hazuki Koguma and Mayu Iwatani defeated the Stars team of Hanan Momokogo and Saya Iida in 12 minutes and 38 seconds, with Hazuki decapitating Momokogo with a pump kick. Tag team match, God's Eye, Konami and Syuri defeated EXV's team of Hanako and Waka Tsukiyama. Konami submitting Waka with the Triangle Lancer, really putting a bow on their challenge for FWC and the Goddess of Stardom Championships in 10 minutes and 55 seconds. 8-woman tag match. 8-woman tag match. What am I on about? 12-woman tag match. Queen's Quest team of Azumi, Hina, Lady C, Miyu Amasaki, and Saya Kamatani, plus Starlight Kid, defeated Cosmic Angels, Ai Sakura, Natsupoi, Sayaka Kurose, Oriano, Tam Nakano, and Yuna Mizumori in 21 minutes and 18 seconds. Azumi getting the victory over Sayaka Kurora with the double foot stomp. And then in your main event, Artist of Stardom Championship match, V2 for the champions EXV. Maika Minishirakawa and Xena retain their championships, defeating the Oedetai team of Momo Watanabe, Natsukatora, and Tekla in 18 minutes and 17 seconds. Xena pinning Momo Watanabe with the Thunderstruck. So, we'll talk about the big things to come out of this show. First things first. The fake high-speed title, Matt. Is it the most prestigious belt in Stardom? And why is the answer absolutely?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, not only just Stardom, but no disrespect to the IWG. No, let's go. No disrespect to the All Japan Triple Crown champions like Stan Hansen, Mitsuharu Misawa, Toshiaki Kawada, Kenta Kobashi. I think this might be the most important belt in the history of Japanese wrestling, my friend. What am I overstating this, or do you think Saki Kashima's reign as the fake high-speed champion, do you think that's better than Misawa's early 90 reigns as the All Japan Triple Crown champion? Again, it's subjective. There's no wrong answer.
Well, there is a wrong answer. The wrong answer is no. Obviously, yes, it is the most important reign in the history of the world. Obviously, it's only going to grow in terms of prestige, and I cannot wait for the moment that Saki Kashima continues to reign as the high-speed queen in front of thousands and thousands of people inside Budokan Hall. I think it's only a matter of time before that happens. No, but in all seriousness, Tokyo Dome, indeed, of course. In all seriousness, obviously, we had the Xena Challenge for Maika. That is going to be happening at The Conversion. And then, on top of that, we also had a video package from Tony Storm. Stardom alumni, Tony Storm, former Red Belt champion Tony Storm, who officially challenged Mina Shirakawa to an AEW World Women's Championship match at the Forbidden Door. Matt, we talked a little bit about these two matches, well, especially the Xena and Maika one. How are we feeling about the Tony and Mina Shirakawa challenge? We knew it was coming, or we were sort of led to believe it was going to happen. It has happened now. It makes sense. How are we feeling?
Well, again, we were there in Philadelphia, ECW Arena, completely unannounced. Tony Storm came out, huge pop, and then she was out of her timeless Tony Storm character gimmick by 20 seconds when she put over how much she loved her time in Stardom, and it shaped her to who she needs to be. So we're kind of wondering what she was doing there. It's almost kind of like, who loves Mariah May more? Is it Mina or is it Tony? Which is a really great, interesting storyline that AEW is doing. And then when she put the AEW Women's World Championship in front of Mina Shirakawa's face, said the Forbidden Door is always open. Again, partner, you were standing there right next to me. About 1,000 people in the legendary ECW Arena went absolutely ballistic. And then once we were able to kind of hear each other and the crowd kind of died down a little bit, I said, Rob, there's no way they would have had Tony Storm on this show, have her go all the way to Philadelphia, do this promo in front of 1,000 people, and on a show that's going to be seen on Stardom World and Fight TV. if it's not going somewhere, like clearly she brought the belt, they made a suggestion for it. They got the pop that they were wanting to get, probably even bigger pop than they thought. So we figured this is where they were going to. And again, about a month or so ago, we were on Talk is Jericho. Obviously, the audio is there, but when me and you kind of made mention this is where they're going to go, Chris had the worst poker face on, and he was like, yeah, that's where they might go. And I'm like, oh, this is 100% happening. Like, it's clearly happening. Obviously, Chris is somebody that is well involved with AEW, not only in front of the camera, but behind the camera as well, and rightfully so. He's one of the smartest wrestlers of all time and is only going to help that company. So I was like, okay, clearly this is where they're going. Where are they going to pull the trigger and start setting it up? And this is where they're really, really starting to set up. So considering the fact that we have this match plus Will Ospreay versus Swerve Strickland, and then Mercedes Moné and Steph Facker. It looked like it's probably going to be official soon. This show coming up at the end of the month is going to be really, really loaded. I'm super excited for Mina Shirakawa to get. I mean, Mina Shirakawa is somebody, and I say this quite a bit, is somebody that has the last 2 or 3 years really worked her ass off to get to her position. She had a fantastic match with Saya. She had a fantastic series of matches with Saya Kamatani. Eventually won the Wonder of Stardom Championship. She challenged Tam last year at Flashing Champions for the red belt. I know a lot of people didn't like the result. Regardless, phenomenal match. This is going to be Tam's biggest match. Mina's biggest match she's ever had, because she's going to wrestle in front of what's probably going to be close to a sold-out crowd. I think 14,000 people. She's going to be wrestling on a worldwide pay-per-view, and she's going to be wrestling somebody that has wrestled and been a champion, not only in Stardom, but NXT, WWE, and now is at top of the AEW women's division in Toni Storm. So this is going to be a big matchup for Mina Shirakawa. I think she's going to absolutely deliver. You throw in this really cool storyline that they're doing with former Goddess of Stardom champion Mariah May. I am all for it. This is the match that I'm probably going to be looking forward to the most at Forbidden Door. And it's probably my Stardom bias, in there. Obviously, Swerve and Ospreay is going to be terrific. But yeah, this is the match that I figured they were going to do once we got out of Philly, and they started to slowly build. And I'm not shocked that we got here. I liked how we got here, and I'm super excited to see these two women put on what is going to be a fantastic match in New York.
Yeah, agreed. What did you think about the card as a whole then? Obviously, I thought that it was quite an interesting take to do the main event and have sort of disquiet between both teams. So you had some disquiet between Xena and Micah, refusing to tag Micah in, instead only tagging Mina in. And then you've got the stuff with Tora and Momo Watanabe and the miscommunication there. That's obviously the main event, and that's probably the match that we're going to be talking about most. But what about the rest of the card, man? Did you think that this was, for lack of a better phrase, Korakuen worthy?
Okay, and I don't think there's anybody in North America that flies the Stardom, fan-wise, flies the Stardom flag bigger and brighter than me. I don't think there's anybody that pumps up and sells Stardom quite like me. And that's just my passion for pro wrestling and Stardom. And I found out this show was going to be a live stream at 10:30 at night on a Saturday, probably about 4 hours prior. And I was humming and hawing. I'm like, do I watch? I got to get up around 4:30 just because my Sundays are just insane. At the same time, I got no problem sacrificing sleep for pro wrestling, except for Stardom. Brother, I didn't watch this live. I did not watch this live at any live stream of Stardom pay-per-view or not. Over the last 3 years, I can probably count on one hand how many shows I missed. And I was like, I'll eventually catch it when I can before we start recording. And when I watched it, because it was a Korakuen worthy, and I mentioned it last week. I'm like, this is a Korakuen show? You just had Marigold, who's your direct competition, whether you want to admit it or not. It's going to that drew over 1,500 tickets. This thing didn't even break 800, because you really, outside of the main event, didn't get anybody that you wanted to see. But as usual, I was wrong, because this show, even though it didn't have the intrigue of a jam-packed card, this was a phenomenal A show. This was terrific. The effort these ladies put on in these matches, they were all great. I mean, let's start with match number 3. Basically a mini preview we are getting for the Goddess of Stardom Tag Team Championships coming up at the end of this month, with Hazuki Kagama and Mayu versus Momo Kogo, Saya Iida, and Hanan. Obviously, the main focus of this match was FWC versus Winggori. Rightfully so. You're trying to sell tickets for, that show on this match. Obviously, Mayu's Mayu. and Momo Kogo. I mean, again, you can put her up there with Xena as far as the most improved wrestler in all of wrestling this year. Their stuff, everything was terrific. All the spots they did, the triple boot scrapes from Team Mayu and FWC was really good. Saya Iida, again, her new gimmick of taking the jacket off and throwing it as high up in the rafters as she can, because now I think that she's trying to get her coat stuck. I'm all for just adding a little bit of comedy to the character that is Saya Iida. I thought this was great. It looked like the finish. I think Momo Kogo was supposed to kick out. I mean, Hazuki floored her with that pump kick, and she might have just knocked Momo Kogo a little bit loopy, because even like Daichi's like, no, that was three, and you can see Hazuki's like, I don't think that was supposed to be the finish. But regardless, 3 3/4 stars. I thought this match was really, really good. And sometimes I like seeing when they do like this respectable infighting of the factions, because it's something that we don't see all the time. But I thought this was a terrific stuff, and it really, like, match 1 and 2 was just to warm the crowd up. But from match 3 to the main event, this card really kicked into another gear.
Yeah, completely agree. I thought once we had the All-Stars match, pun very much intended, I thought it really did kick into another gear. That's a great way of putting it. It did sort of feel like the rest of the card was sort of warming up. I thought God's Eye, again, Konami and Syuri really putting that case forward for those Goddess of Stardom Championship belts, which, you know, whoever comes out on top in the pay-per-view, if God's Eye are the next challengers, I am all for that. What do you think about the 12 woman?
Real quick, I mentioned at the beginning of the show, Waka and Hanako, so good together. Waka, how about that? Just that welt underneath her eye at the end of the match?
I did, yes, I did.
Yeah, Waka, I think this was her best performance. She was doing like the hip attack gimmick onto Sherry, and then she did the running hip attack, and Sherry just like kicked her out of midair. And I thought, all right, Sherry and Konami are just going to eat up Hanako and Waka. And they didn't. Like, Hanako and Waka really brought it to another level. And Waka, even though she was all bruised up from the face, she really fired up. And it gave her character that extra little oomph that I think that she was missing. And it's going to be interesting to see how she's booked coming back from the injury. Sherry and Konami as a tag team with FWC or Winggori, I think it's going to be FWC. That's going to be a hard-hitting, must-see match. To answer your question, 12-woman tag, you know, you look at this on paper, like too many people in the match, but as usually Stardom, it's like you can put 1,000 people. It's not going to matter. They're going to find a way to get the match over, everybody to look important. Nobody's going to get in anybody's way. The psychology is going to be there. The timing is going to be there. The ring position is going to be there. I thought this was terrific. Again, you have some phenomenal workers in there. Tam, Natsupoi, Soriano, Yuna Mizumori. And again, I'm a big fan of the pairing of Aya and Sayaka. Then you have Starlight Kid into the mix with the Zumi, Miyu Amasaki, Kamatani, Lady C, and Hina. It's always great seeing Hina back from, she just came back from her injury. But I thought this match really got off to a really good start. I thought it was really cool to see Starlight Kid, Miyu, and Uzumi have some tag team work there. And again, that may be a way of a faction. You know, you throw in a Mei, Sarah, and a Suzuki. That may be a new faction coming up. I don't know. But I thought it was really, really good. I actually gave the tag match, the Sherry Konami versus Waka Hanako match, I gave that actually 4 stars because I love that much. I love the Waka fire in that match, and I gave this one 4 stars as well. Again, kudos to Stardom having 12 people in the match and nobody got in anybody's way. Nothing was too fast. You were able to get in what you were able to get in. The psychology made sense. Everybody looked good. I thought it was a really, really good match and a great way to end this match with the Zumi with that insane double foot stomp. Again, match 4 and match 5, absolutely loved. I gave both 4 stars. My favorite match of the show was probably this Cosmic Angels versus Queen's Quest plus SLK.
What was your thought? So obviously we both predicted that Oedo were going to be taking the Artist of Stardom championships, especially after sort of Tekla's sort of self-imposed war against idol culture. That wasn't the case, obviously, because of the miscommunication between Tora and Momo, which Tora has come out and blamed wholeheartedly on Saya Kamatani, which I quite like. What did you think of the match as a whole? Obviously, Xena very much the focus, and I thought she was really, really good in this match. Her exchange with Momo Watanabe. Another singles match I didn't know I needed to see, but I'm very excited about. What did you think?
I thought it was really good. I gave it 3 3/4 stars. I just liked match 4 and 5 a little bit better. I liked how it started with Xena and Momo, where like the kicks and the chops and the forearm exchanges. And I was like, oh, that's a good way to start. And then, of course, Rob, it's Oedo Tai, it's Korakuen Hall. You know what's got to happen, buddy.
A weather tie, my friend. I've got a weather tie.
Yep. So we get the brawl all over the building. And then and I've never, obviously we sing Mina Shirakawa's praises a lot on this show, but I've never seen Mina sell like she sold here. And it seemed like they did a lot of putting the heat on Mina once the Ueda Tai brawl was over. We've seen it's kind of the same Ueda Tai formula, and it works. They baby face. It's really simple tag team wrestling psychology. The baby faces get up a little bit, they get the shine on in the beginning, and then the heels cheat to get the advantage to lead to the heat. And that's what happens in every Ueda Tai match. But their heat just starts with knocking over about half the chairs that are in Korakuen Hall, and by half, I'm being generous. But then they throw Mina into the ring, and again, Mina's a big focal point, not only for Stardom, but for wrestling as well. We just made mention she's going to be wrestling at Forbidden Door against Toni Storm in front of a jam-packed house. So seeing Mina Shirakawa sell here, not that she wasn't a bad seller, I'm not saying that, but like her selling here really made sense, the psychology, the levels to it. And I was like, oh, she's really taking her game, her complete game, to another level here. And if you're going to kind of almost test out or try to get better at certain selling and you're a babyface, what better team to do it against these three bruisers than a Ueda Tai? So I thought it was really good how Mina was able to really bring the crowd together on her sympathy and selling, eventually, tagging in the harder hitters that are Micah and Xena. And then as you're building up to, and then, obviously they do their tag stuff. They do the take a picture splash, which I'm a huge fan. I think that's absolutely hilarious. They do the anthill, or the EXP, the anthill. That's called the, hold on, I know what it is. It's called the Venus Tower.
There you go.
Yeah, the Venus Tower. There it is. There again. I wrestled in Chikara quite a bit in the early 2000s. So the anthill was something that I would see regularly in matches. But they did that spot. They got all their really cool trio spots over, which again, it's why they're trios champions. And then we see one missed spot, and then you figured not missed. We see one missed spot that you think that would lead to the finish, but eventually Mike is able to overcome all the interference from Ueda Tai, which none of this happened in front of the referee, which tugs at my heartstrings. And then Tora goes for the second missed spot, but my Gorilla Monsoon reference of the podcast would be she went to the well one too many times and then missed Momo Watanabe, allowing Xena to get the finish here. Really good match, really good psychology, getting Xena over here in the main event of Korakuen Hall, building her up to the title match. I thought that was really good. And yeah, you had the promo afterwards where Tora said, no, we only lost because Sai Kamatani's in Momo Watanabe's head. And then if you go back and watch Sai Kamatani's post-match promo saying, a lot of times, sometimes I get ahead of myself, but there's a reason why Azumi has been in Queen's Quest the longest. Sometimes she'll reel me in on certain things. So looked like one show that Azumi was kind of giving Sai Kamatani the dirty look there. Now it really seems like Sai and Azumi are on the same page. Don't know what's going on there, what they're setting up, or if the booking is trying to pivot somewhere again because of the low attendance numbers. But some really interesting stuff they're setting up, not only in the ring, but these backstage promos as well, partner.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the backstage promos. I think that's a really good way of sort of getting these storylines going, and the fact that they're getting them up so quickly with the translations, they seem to have got this subtitling working really, really well. I think is working tremendously well for us to be able to see what is going on, especially for shows that we can't see live. Let's talk then, Matt, about perhaps your favourite segment of the entire show. And you know what time it is, don't you?
I do.
It's Io and Kairi watch.
Io and Kairi watch. Not much to watch, but we're building, folks. We're building. You can't have Io versus Bayley 25 minutes every week. So basically what happens is Lila Valkyria, which if you remember, she knocked out Io in the semifinals of the Queen of the Ring tournament. She's cutting a backstage promo where she's saying that she wants to win the women's Money in the Bank match. And then Io comes into the shot very much like she was last week, all sorts of fired up on Red Bull and Motley Crue, Dr. Feelgood feels. She comes in, just beats the crap out of poor Lila Valkyria, throws her up against the wall, and then storms off again, all fired up. And then we find out about 20 minutes later that next week on Monday Night Raw, we will get that rematch, which was a phenomenal match from the Queen in the Ring semifinals, as Lila Valkyria will be taking on one Io Shirai. So that's all that we had no Kyrie. Really, that was about it. But again, sometimes we have these 2 or 3 segments with them. Sometimes we just have this one. But I'm really looking forward to that rematch. And partner, I know that again you're busy writing a million books, but if it's anywhere near as good as their match from a few weeks ago, I think this Io versus Lyra Valkyria match is one that you should check out coming up this Monday on Monday Night Raw.
I very well might do, my friend. Right, and so Stardom have announced the cards for the next 2 weekends. So June 8th, June 9th, June 15th, and June 16th as well. So we'll run through these cards, Matt. In fact, no, we will run through all of these cards. So we start June 8th, Nagoya. This show is going to be a pay-per-view. So this is the card. Konami versus Rani Yagami. Sayaka Kurora, Aya Sakura, and Sayori Anu versus Shiori Amisori and Saki Kashima. Koguma versus Hanan and Hazuki versus Saya Iida. Little preview there for the pay-per-view. We have got Mayu Iwatani, Momo Kogo, and Starlight Kid. Starlight Kid teaming once again with Stars. Versus Azumi, Meisera, and Rian. Versus Tam Nakano, Natsupoi, and Yuna Mizumori. Sai Kamatani, Lady C, and Miyu Amasaki versus Tora, Momo Watanabe, and Tekla. And then in your main event, it's an all-EXV tag finale. Maika and Hanako versus Mina Shirakawa and Xena. Matt, what's your thought on that card, my friend?
I think this is a really, really solid card. I don't know if this is pay-per-view. I know they said it was going to be. I think it was only announced just on the website. They really haven't made mention anywhere else. So now unless it's a typo or they're going to give it for a super, super discount price, or if it's supposed to be a VOD, that I don't know. Again, I know that that's what they put it on there. But regardless, this is a really solid card. I like how they're built. They're using a lot of this card to build towards that card on the 22nd. Obviously, Hazuki, Saya Iida, Koguma, and Hanan. So you have Winggori on one side, and you have FWC on the other side in singles matches. I like that. The main event as well, I think you're going to do a great job. I think the main focus of that main event is to build Xena up. I think Xena hitting Hanako with the Thunderstruck is going to be a really cool visual to end that show. Obviously, Mina and Maika, they're going to be terrific as well. And Hanako, again, you're giving her a main event spotlight on this show, which she's going to be good. So looking forward to that. That co-main event, or what I'm looking at as the co-main event, is going to be, as far as story-wise goes, it's probably going to be the most intriguing match on this weekend, because again, you have Queen's Quest of Saya, Lady C, Miyu Amasaki versus Tora, Momo, and Tekla. And again, you have Tora, Momo, and Tekla just coming off that loss for their challenge of the Artists of Stardom Championship, and they're flat out, by they, I mean Tekla and Tora are blaming Saya Kamatani, where Momo's not saying anything. So you don't know where she stands. So that is very, very intriguing, because they're going to be putting a lot more fingerprints and footprints on that storyline going forward. So Konami and Rani Yagami is going to be great. You're going to have the striking and the grappling between the two women. But all in all, a really, really solid show. But what I'm looking forward to the most is that Queen's Quest versus Oedo Tai 6-person tag that's going to elevate that story that they're doing on where Momo is going to end up, or whether she's going to leave Oedo Tai to go back to Queen's Quest, and then Hazuki versus Saya Iida and Koguma and Han. And I mean, that just sells itself.
Really does. We move to June 9th in Toyama. This is video on demand. The card is as follows. Hanan versus Sayaka Kurora. Saya Iida versus Aya Sakura. Mina Shirakawa versus Meisera versus Momokogo versus Rian. Shiori and Konami versus Lady C and Miyu Amasaki. Tam Nakano, Natsupoi, and Yuna Mizumori versus Amisori, Saki Kashima, and Rani Yagami. Saya Kamatani, Azumi, and Starlight Kid, just listen to that for a team, versus Natsuko Tora, Momo Watanabe, and Tekla. And then finally, in your main event, Mayu Iwatani, Hazuki, and Koguma versus Maika, Xena, and Hanako. Very excited for that match, Matt, that main event. I think that's going to be great. And also a team of Saya Kamatani, Azumi, and Starlight Kid as well. Could be very, very tasty.
Yeah, that stuff. Those two matches are going to be great as well. And again, looks like we're using this card, rightfully so, to heat up the team of Shuri and Konami. Miyu Amasaki, we've been singing her praises for the past 7-8 months. And Lady C, somebody that really, really brings it as far as her striking goes. especially when it comes to the wrestlers that bring in the striking. We know that Konami and Sherry are going to kick and form the bejesus out of those two fantastic wrestlers from Queen's Quest, but Lady C is going to bring it as well. So the main event and co-main event, definitely the two matches I'm looking forward to the most, but don't count out Sherry and Konami versus Lady C and Miyu Amasaki as what could be a sleeper hit on this show.
June 15th in Shizuoka. This is another video on demand show. Konami Amisori and Rani Yagami versus Yuna Mizumori, Aya Sakura, and Sayaka Kurora. Koguma versus Saya Iida, Hazuki versus Hanan, so the reverse of the prior singles matches on June 8th. Mina Shirakawa versus Meisera versus Rian. Mayu Iwatani and Momokogo versus Shiori and Saki Kashima. Maika, Xena, and Hanako versus Shiori Anu, Tam Nakano, and Natsupoi. And then finally in your main event, Saya Kamitani, Lady C, and Miyu Amasaki versus Natsuko Tora, Momo Watanabe, and Tekla. Another Queen's Quest Oedo Tai match. Matt, I am hoping by the end of this block of 4 that we are going to get some sort of storyline progression or some concrete direction as to where we're going, because I feel that there's only so long you can tease the turn before you tease it too much.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very, very impactful on that storyline and how they do it. So I think coming out of the next 2 weeks is going to be a real big indicator on where we're going. I'm really looking at that Mayu and Momokogo Peach Rock, I believe they were called, versus Sherry and Saki Kashima. That's going to be a really good one. But again, we've been seeing Sherry and Konami team up quite a bit, and then Sherry at the end of the Korakuen show saying that they're going to be gunning for the tag titles. Why not take Saki out and put Konami in here? You easily can do Saki, Amisori, and Rana versus Yuna, Aya, and Sayaka Kurora. And then, Mayu and Momo versus Shuri and Konami. That'll be an all sorts of great match. So you kind of could have flip-flopped that there. But it's going to be interesting how they're going to, again, you're looking at that semi-main event match, or at least when I'm looking at the semi-main event match, where you have Maika, Xena, and Hanako versus the work rate angels of Suryanu, Tam, and Natsupoi. You're obviously trying to build Xena up in this match. They can easily just say, well, we'll have Hanako take the pinfall. But I think that Xena needs to get a win here. And does she get a win over Natsupoi? Does she get a win over Tam? Those are all real possibilities, because we've been seeing, since Mr. Okada has been taking over the full reins of Stardom, he's got no problem pinning these main eventers and these multi-person shows to build somebody up towards a main event pay-per-view match. So I would not be shocked if you see Xena getting a pinfall victory over Tam in this semi-main event.
Could be. It could be. I think you're absolutely right. I think there's absolutely a case to be made that it could have been Peach Rock versus Shiori and Konami, but we will see. We will see. June 16th in Osaka then is the final card that they've announced. And don't forget, this is another live show, the next live show that isn't going to be a pay-per-view. Miyu Amasaki versus Aya Sakura. Meisera versus Yuna Mizumori versus Rian. Mina Shirakawa and Hanako versus Saki Kashima and Rani Yagami. Peach Rock again versus Saori Anu and Sayaka Kurora. Tam, Natsupoi, and Starlight Kid. Again, that is a great team. Versus Shiori, Konami, and Amisori. That is a great matchup. Saya Kamitani and Lady C versus Natsuko Tora, Momo Watanabe, and Tekla. Currently, that's listed as a 2-on-3 handicap match. I'm assuming that Miyu... Oh, no. Azumi, maybe? Is Azumi not on this card? Yes, I think it's Azumi. I've just missed off my notes. And Maika, Hazuki, and Koguma versus Xena, Hanan, and Saya Iida. A nice little pay-per-view preview match there. Matt, final opinions on the June 16th card in Osaka.
Rob, real quick, I just want to put you over, my man. I'm looking at the notes that Stardom has, and Azumi is left off that match. If it is Azumi, so that wasn't your fault. So,
okay.
Kudos to you. Rob, I want to make mention on this card. June 16th is a very important day in my life. Do you know why that is, my friend?
I do indeed. It's 3 months exactly. 3 months to the day, in fact, since Austin 316 Day.
There it is. You never cease to amaze me. June 16th, folks, is my wedding anniversary.
Oh, I was close.
Now, I did not know this card until I just read it. So I'm like, what would be the perfect anniversary gift for my wife from this card? Now, Rob, you know, and everybody knows the Stardom wrestler that my wife does not enjoy, right?
Yeah, of course.
Who is she? Who is she across the ring in this match that may smash her face in?
Death Yamasan. Always the answer. Always has to be the answer, my friend. Always.
Queen Clown.
Absolutely. Queen Clown, indeed. Do carry on.
I can't wait to tell her that on our anniversary, Tam is across the ring from not only Amisori, not only Konami, but Sherry. So, no, in all seriousness, that match is going to be really good. In the main event of Maika Hazuki Kagama versus Xena Hanan and Saya Iida. I think that's, you're mixing up the factions so you can have the champions on one side and the challengers for your pay-per-view the next week on another side. I think that's really, really good and something we've really never seen Stardom do that much. But all four of these cards look really, really good. And we're going to be seeing some building up to some championship matches, obviously with the FWC versus Winggori stuff. Hopefully we see Xena continue to get heated up, going for that World of Stardom Championship at the end of the match, and then progression on will or won't Momo Watanabe come back to Queen's Quest. So, yeah, some interesting things, some really, really good matchups, some dream teams that we never thought we'd see, and hopefully some really, really good storyline progression from Stardom coming from these four shows.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That brings us to the end of our podcast. 2.5 hours, I feel, is not too bad to talk about 3 shows. All of the stuff surrounding Momo Watanabe, Saya Gamatani, the direction of Starlight Kid, and previewing 4 shows, as well as all the news we got into as well. It's been a gargantuan episode. Thank you for sticking around, and thank you for listening to us. As always, thank you for your support. It does mean the absolute world to us. If you haven't already, maybe consider subscribing. We are on every single podcast app you could possibly think of. If you could leave us a 5-star review as well, that would be awesome. However, if you want to support us in a different way, you can go to patreon.com/the Stardom Cast for a whole host of bonus episodes, as well as getting every single episode of the podcast early and ad-free for as little as $1 a month. You can also check out the website, www.thestardomcast.com, for all things World Wondering Stardom, whether it's stats, whether it's records, whether it's a whole podcast archive. You can find it there, stardomcast.com. You can also find us on social media at the Stardom Cast. You can talk to me on Twitter at RealRobGoodwin. Matt Turner, sign us off, good sir.
Absolutely, folks. And just another a reminder of the programming note for next week, as I will be sending in my report. Unfortunately, not live, but it'll be recorded. So bear with myself and Rob as I am away on a work trip. So we will get some content out to you. It may not just be the back and forth fantastic banter as we talk about our love for one Queen Clown and the human Cadillac Dorian DeVille, but we will have some content out there for you for next week. So we appreciate your patience. Folks, questions, comments, anything I can do for you, suggestions, Matt Turner OF on the Instagram and or the Twitter is the best way to get a hold of me. If you want to shoot me an email, that's perfectly fine as well. The StardomCast22@gmail.com is the best way to get a hold of me via the email system. And that'll wrap it up for another fantastic episode. I hope you all enjoyed it. Hope you all have a great day and a great week. We appreciate your support. Can't do it without you because, like I always say, just not my podcast. It's our podcast because we're all together. Everybody's different and everybody's special.